for the Indian Trail Town Council meeting for Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018. This time, would everyone please stand for our pledge? Mr. Crump, would you do us the honor of leading us in the pledge? The pledge. If you'd remain standing for our moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. French fries. At this time, are there any additions or deletions to our agenda? Mr. Cohn?
I got 3 of them. I'd like to add on 8E, amendment to the rules of procedures updating location and time of meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to, on C1, remove the shops at Hanfield, that's the applicant's request, and add 12F, discussion of surplus budget items. Mr. Wanowitz.
Okay, is there any objections? Any other additions or deletions? At this time, I need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Ms. Howes made the motion to approve. All in favor? That would be unanimous. Agenda approved. First, we'll start with our presentations here. Item A is Citizen of the Quarter for the fourth quarter of 2017. And the council had discussed and voted for a very distinguished member of our community whose contributions are more than we can say. World War II veteran, several Purple Hearts, active member in our VFW, recently received the highest medal from our esteemed partners across the sea of the country of France. Brightens everyone's day when he enters a room, has a street named after him, and many, many more. But most importantly, he is a veteran, and he is one of our heroes that landed on Normandy. It is my honor to name James Crump our fourth quarter Citizen of the Quarter. Crump, you're not done. On behalf of the Town of Indian Trail and the Town Council, we'd like you to have this little symbol of recognition. And thank you for allowing us to have you as a member of our community. And thank you for being my friend.
Thank you.
There's a microphone right here. I'm going to say a few words.
It is so good to be here. You're the best thing on this planet. If everybody was friends, look, I couldn't ask for anything more than friends. It was worth fighting for. I appreciate this building. Great. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Our second presentation is from Mr. Sadik. It's Roundabouts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and sit next to Adam, if you don't mind, so I could run the computer for 5 minutes. Thank you. This presentation reflects one that I did for the budget retreat in South Carolina. Simply what it does, it evaluate a large number of intersections that we were having heavy number of accidents during the seasons and off seasons. And mainly, many states these days are looking into either transforming signalized intersections into roundabout, or any new intersections, they try the roundabout first. If it doesn't work, then they go into signalized intersections. Simply what we did is we took all the intersection on one 4-lane boulevard. For a period of duration of 12 months, we put them on each intersection, and we studied the type of, you're looking at the screen, you can see the type of accidents that were experienced at these signalized intersections. Again, this is a 4-lane boulevard. Every intersection is signalized. That roadway is owned by the state. The town did not own that roadway. So I'm going to scroll through these slides, so I won't spend too much time on them. But you could see the severity of each one of them. South Carolina, they're notorious sometimes when they're building projects that have 4 lanes. Each lane is 12 feet wide. They're all wide signalized intersections that sometimes put the drivers into what we call the dilemma zone. The dilemma zone simply is when you'll be facing a yellow light, and then you try to decide, should I stop or should I cross the intersection? This slide right here shows 2 red dots. 2 fatalities occurred at that signalized intersections. So we made these first priority, and we start analyzing the intersections. Here's another one that shows 1. And you could see in red how sometimes signalized intersections, they show a lot of rear-end collisions. There's 2 other fatalities right here too that occurred on another intersection. This is skewed a little bit. That makes it a bit challenging. You could see how they group together. Sometimes it tells us that it's the same location. So we looked at all these intersections. This one right here, a 16-year-old lovely lady just got her driver license, and she had an accident there. She was trying to cross the intersection. And the second item, as we had a police officer that his wife was one of those fatal accidents too. You could tell right here how wide these intersections are, and a long distance to cross them, even though they're signalized. And the most attractive building in Myrtle Beach, mainly banks, they're located at these intersections. This one probably is the widest one among them all. Here is what we did. So the best way to resolve the issue is to transform those signalized intersections into roundabout. And just roundabouts, probably the most complicated accident would be side swipe. So we provided a safer area for pedestrian. You could see it in yellow where they're crossing. We took a lot of the pavement out because pavement was costing a lot of money, and we wanted to transform the paved area into landscape area. And we used software called Synchro that we used the same amount of traffic, worse condition, and it worked well around that. So we could always take any signalized intersection, transform it into a roundabout, and it will work and it will become more safer. And this is another one too that we tried, and I'm not sure if they constructed them yet or to the design that we came up with. In Myrtle Beach, we do have a lot of chopper ride business that they fly over these roadways, especially over Broadway at the beach and the ocean. So what we decided to do is what we propose is to create aesthetic in those roundabouts, and also all these tourists that they're coming to the town, they could look at it from top, and this is how one of them will look like if you go over it flying low with the chopper. And that's how it'll look if you're looking at it from a street view. This is another one. So we came up with 4 concepts. The intent of showing you this is that we could take any boring roundabout and make it look very attractive and spend some money on it. When we proposed these to the state in Colombia, they offered $250,000 each intersection, and the state will and the city will spend the money on the decorative part inside it. That's how one of them will look too. These are rendering. This is my favorite right here. This is what we call the Palmetto Circle, and the last one is the Patriot Circle. So simply that was a project, a big project in Myrtle Beach, and I'm not sure if they completed all of them, but I wanted to share some of these with you just to show you that we could make the transformation. And the following slides simply will show many different type of circles and roundabout. Now we do have in town 2 of them. One of them is going to be underway, it's under design, that's Sardis Road and Unionville. And another one is going to be on Gribble Road if we get the funding, the 50% funding from the county. But they vary in size, they're at different locations, downtown, outside, rural area. Some of them, they're a bit crazy, but some of them are well designed. You have gas station, any type of businesses around them. And again, you could accommodate design vehicles like B50, tractor trailer B50 up to B67. Some of them are so gigantic. Now, luckily, we don't have anything like that in the U.S. This is, I'm pretty sure, somewhere in Europe. Is it another one too? But these are called circles. They don't design them like we do here. We call them roundabout. And ours, they have pavement marking and everything you need in them. So in a way, we do have a better product. This is something probably one of the best in residential neighborhood. It will last. The concrete will last for a long time. But just flying over these, some of them are very small. Probably the diameter of this one will be on Gribble Road and Indian Trail. They get so fancy sometimes. This one is a very bad one. It's so small, and look at how many signs they have around it. That's the same guy that designed this one, ended up in New Zealand designing another one. You could tell at the vehicles that they're so old that roundabouts and circles been out there for a long, long time. I couldn't figure this one out. This one looks like in England somewhere. But you could become very creative. This is my favorite one. This can be done too. This is sort of a bloody a little bit. But you could have them anywhere, and sometimes it's just the design should fit the surrounding environment. This one is very nice too. You could see there are a couple shops in there, and people, they go shop, and it's very protective. And this is another one of those things that you can't figure out. It's Europe. I'm almost done. My house. I'm just kidding. They also work pretty well next to blighted area, next to a freeway. They kind of stop some things, some bad. This is a rural area too. Most of these, the one that you see there in the United States. This is a very old one. This is a very nice one right here too. Overseas. We're almost done. This is a very unique one, and I think you could see it. It's a double on either side of the railroad, and you could see how blighted the area around it, and I think the intent is to really change those lots and parcels around the roundabout. But just wanted to share this with you, that this could be implemented anywhere. The size is not an issue as long as the vehicles go around it. But we do have a couple of them here in Indian Trail, and one of them is under design and the other one waiting for funding. Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Mayor, Council? We good? Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
At this time, I'll open the public comments section. As a reminder, everyone, each person has 3 minutes. Be respectful to the speaker. Speaker, be respectful to those around you. State your name, and your time will begin. Robert Hinson. Hey. Hello, Dr. Hinson.
Just Robert. Robert Henson, President of the Indian Trail Arts and Historical Society. Mayor, council members, government staff, and citizens of Indian Trail. I want to really reintroduce myself and my organization to you. I am President Robert Henson of the Indian Trail Arts and Historical Society. We're a nonprofit, a non-political organization whose sole purpose is in its name, to foster cultural arts in Indian Trail and to preserve the town's history for present and future citizens. All of our past projects have been paid for by generous contributions from businesses and heritage families of Indian Trail. We have not asked for any finances from the town, and greatly appreciate you, the council members, a willingness to preserve our tangible histories by allowing us to work unencumbered with the park and government officials. We morphed from the Bicentennial Committee of 2007 to our organization today, which is and has been open to all citizens to participate in preserving our town's art and history. Past park projects have been commissioning a bronze bust of the Native American who lived in this area centuries ago, an inhabitant of the area, a sojourner of the trail, which likeness was approved by the North Carolina Native Americans Council and placed in a meditative area in the Crossing Paths Park. Our organization's members helped plant, along with the Rotary Club and town officials, the trees and bushes for that park. We wrote and organized a bicentennial hardcover book that was presented, I know, to the French official that was here, and later a softcover edition of our Indian Trails founders, remarkable citizens, and the area's history titled Indian Trail, the First 100 Years, 1907-2007. We have a second book titled Indian Trail, the First 100 Years Plus, going beyond the 2007 cutoff, coming out this year. Another project was 14 written and graphically illustrated metal plaques depicting the town's history placed on the brick columns at Crossing Paths Park. The same history plaques will be placed at Crooked Creek Park's walking trail and hopefully at Chestnut Park across the street, where our organization, through generous private donations, has already
30 seconds.
Again, no taxpayers' money was used. We also have commissioned a professional park sculpturist to create an original piece for Chestnut Park through private donations. Lastly, this leads now to a founding family's request, the Hausers, who's following me, who are and have been waiting and willing to give back to the town by financing small commemorative and heritage and historical
Time's
and
up, Dr.
beautification
Hens.
projects in Chestnut Park through the Arts and Historical Society as
That's-
a way of preserving the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hinson. Okay, Stephen Hauser.
Yes. Can you, is it on?
Yes, it's.
Okay.
The red
Uh,
dot, she should be a green dot.
I'm Stephen Hauser Jr. My parents owned this property that now sits the park and the government building, and we're very pleased to see that the land is being used in such a productive way for the people of the town. I can't help but look back and think about the railroad tracks, which are right behind us, and I think it's a symbol of what the strength of the town is. When I was probably 8 years old, perhaps, the train came through and a spark came from the train, set the area there on fire. The community of Indian Trail, being 350 people, stopped what they were doing, went out, and as a group put that fire out, because that was the way it was going to be done if it was going to be done. And that really stuck in my memory, to see that community spirit. We have seen that, my sister and I have seen that throughout the years, and we feel, we've often said to each other that we are who we are because of living here. And I live in Waxhaw, but I must tell you, my heart is here because of the great memories and experiences. My great-grandfather was one of the founders of Indian Trail, James Orr. My grandfather was postmaster for 36 years and 8 months, from 1920 to 1956, I believe, Hiram Orr. And I lived here. My mother was born just here in the the two-story house, and all her brothers and sisters were too. And so we have a lineage here that's quite deep. We hope to work to preserve this area and also preserve the spirit, that great heritage that I know and have experienced. When I was young, I walked around a lot and I talked to a lot of people. Probably what I did more than anything was I listened. And I heard the old timers telling their stories. And so I know from those stories and from my relatives of the value that's here. And I shared those things too. And I helped with the Centennial book as well. My mother went on to be a teacher here in Union County. And so it's been said that maybe half of the county at that time learned to make biscuits through her home economics classes, which were basically survival classes for females. My dad came
30
into
seconds, Mr. Hauser.
this area in 1940, and he left quickly to go join the war effort. He ended up being commemorated, highly decorated, with his work as a B-17 pilot and commander of the Charlotte Air Force Reserve later on through his retirement. He was also an educator. After the war, he came, and a lot of people here probably didn't even know.
Time's up, Mr. Hauser.
I just wanted to share that, and my sister's going to carry forth. Thank you.
Marilyn Hauser, I can't read your last part there.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Hauser Hartness. Mayor Alvarez, councilmen, councilwomen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to be here tonight. I live in Monroe, and I grew up right here on this property. And during my years of growing up, there were many opportunities to become educated by this land. So as my brother and I have walked around on Chestnut Park Trail, we have discovered certain places where we wish very much to help educate the young families that are now enjoying all of the space that we now have looked back on and seen as our homeland. And we are wanting to help the town of Indian Trail develop this Chestnut Park Trail and make it very special. Several things are special to us about it. One is the nice hard oak trees, the tall trees that are there for the children to go playing and running around and being imaginative around. And then there is a crop of very large rock on the property over across the way, and we would like that to be emphasized because we think that families would love to have picnics there. And then there are some places along the walking path that we could imagine there could be a garden. Because of the garden and the power of a garden that there is in our memory, we would love to see a certain area that could be made into a garden space, both for flowers and for some vegetables. We would love to also see an opportunity for children to be able to go and to do some sketching and drawing in the area, and that could be done if we had a few more park benches in the space. So we are very interested in seeing this develop into a greater space for families, for young families, and for all ages. It would be a dream come true. And Mom was she was alive until 2014, and she was so very happy that Indian Trail purchased the property for the town and for the future of so many people. So I just leave you with this because this is part of what we would like to do. This would be an initiative that
30 seconds.
we would definitely carry forward if you all would like to see that developed in such a way. Thank you, sir, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Leah Morency?
Hello. My name's Leah Morency. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I am introducing myself. I have just joined with the Arts and Historical Society to help create an Indian Trail Art League, since there is no art league currently. I just met with these people the other day and was inspired by their story about the land and the history that Indian Trail has. I want to speak just to say how important it is as an artist, I'm an artist, of course, starting the Art League, that children have, in our community spaces, in our community gatherings, are encouraged to be creative. I believe creativity empowers children to have vision and empowers them to envision a better future. And I love that our community space makes us stronger, because when we gather together as a community, that creates relationship, it creates a stronger community. And the vision that is being put forward for our park, which is a place I bring my children to be involved in community and to, is for, it's for the community, it's to be creative. What I wanted to mostly say as starting the Art League, and I'm speaking from my heart, so I didn't prepare anything to say, but I see that there's an opportunity for artists and for creativity and for children to have, to be incorporated into this town space. The park is a huge blessing, and I can see that there's a lot of possibilities for the art community to be involved in, just influencing and having a space that people can come together and connect in that way. Personally, I was very inspired by the Hauser's vision that their parents had to create a family home and to create sort of a haven that's in the woods, that's in nature for their children. And I think what we have at the park, for me, when I bring my children there, I experience that, and it's inspiring to me. So I love that Indian Trail has that.
30 seconds, Leah.
I wanted to say when I was listening to them talk, my parents are immigrants, and I'm disconnected from my roots because my family roots are in other countries. So when I came here to Indian Trail, I love that there is history, that there are roots, and there are people that are connected to the land, and I want to pass it on to my children. So.
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Art Spur.
Thank you, Mayor, Town Council. I'm going to make an offer to you guys. I've been handicapped for the last 2.5 years, and I think most everybody here knows me. I am very concerned about my town, and I love this place just like these folks here. I've lived here for 23 years. But when you become handicapped, you begin to notice things that you never saw before. I've been very active with the Americans with Disabilities, with HUD, with the Department of Justice, with the Fair Housing Act, and become very familiar with it. But I found out recently when a town reaches a certain size that it's required that the town have an ADA coordinator. I don't think Indian Trail has that. I'm going to make an offer to you. I have learned so much by being handicapped and seeing so many things that could be corrected and being proactive instead of reactive. We can keep the town out of some hot water, maybe. I would like to become the ADA coordinator for the town of Indian Trail. And I would like to have that be an actual position working directly under our town manager. The only thing I would like to do is have an office space, place to work, a vehicle if I need it, but I don't want any pay. I'll work my own hours, working directly for the town manager. Some of the things I can do at home. But it's a line item. But along with that, I would like to be not only the Americans with Disability Act coordinator for the town of Indian Trail, but I would also like to be the safety advisor, because I'm also very familiar with that area, with risk management and the FEMA requirements and OSHA and all the other things that are necessary to keep our town safe. So between the two, it's in your court, whether you want to do this or whether you don't. I'm making you the offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spur. Michael Falkenberry?
Good evening. Michael Falkenberry, 519 Patriot Circle. Long time no see. On January 18th, 2018, it was 1 year ago since we lost a good friend. His name is Bob Green. He was very compassionate in what he believed in and willing to get involved to help others. His kind spirit should be remembered and to inspire others. I first met Mr. Green in May 2015 while he was practicing softball with his teammates, all of whom were in wheelchairs. Mr. Green and his teammates were practicing on a hot asphalt parking lot at Sardis Elementary School. In our conversation, I found out their team had no safe or affordable place to practice or play softball or basketball. The Miracle League of Indian Trail was to provide a field for their team to practice and to play softball. The field would be also used for children with special needs. That vision was started in June 2014 and has now been close to 4 years since that dream first took place. On October 25th, 2016, there was a unanimous vote by council for the Miracle League to provide funding updates before council and not to town staff behind the scenes. Very few updates have taken place, and some updates have been deleted from council meeting agendas. That isn't being open and transparent, nor is that allowing the resolution that was passed in October 2016 to be truthful. I did tell Mr. Green in 2015 the Miracle League field could be a reality provided politics and egos were to stay out of the process. I am saddened Mr. Green did not see a dream become a reality because of that very same reason. It is time to keep promises and no more excuses hoping to buy more time. Get it done openly and no more secrecy. On January the 16th, I sent an email to Town Manager Pat Sadek and carbon copy town staff members Jim Wolowitz and Adam McLam. I had attached to that email an email that was sent from Mr. Wolowitz from August 14, 2017, showing another bid had been submitted by Waste Pro. The bid was only about $18,000 more annually than the bid by Waste Connection over the 5-year contract. What is confusing is during every waste management contract update the last year during council meetings, a greater amount in savings by Waste Connection is always presented by town staff than the amount in Mr. Wollowitz's email on August 2017. I'm still waiting on answers to my questions.
30 seconds, sir.
From Mr. Sadik. According to a town organizational chart that Mr. Head's graciously used in his campaign, thank you for doing so, the residents are on the top of that chart. I still want those answers. As a resident, I want the truth. Is the right dollar figures being used in your presentations, as opposed to what's in that email that's been shared all over social media? And veterans, thank you for your service. It's coming from one veteran to another. Thank you.
Curtis Drafton. Go ahead, sir. Take one, pass it down.
Good evening. Curtis Drafton, Board of Directors for the North Carolina Military Veterans Hall of Fame. Just 2 weeks ago, we completed our second of 3 walks from Raleigh to Charlotte to raise awareness for veterans' concerns and for the Hall of Fame. Several of those veterans who walk with me are here in the crowd from the local post here, 2423 in Indian Trail. We love you guys. We know you guys by name now and by face. On the 18th of May of this year, we will start the ceremony weekend for our first induction class of 2018 for veterans. On that day, we first request that we have a parade right here in Indian Trail for our veterans, our inductees. Probably take about an hour, hour and a half max, probably about a mile or so, where people like, such as Mr. Crump there, can be honored and recognized by the community for what they did. The other thing is that we are looking for a temporary home for 6 months to 12 months for the Hall of Fame, so that the public can come out, view the veterans, view their stories, see their plaques, see their accomplishments, in lieu of us not having a building now, of which we've started a capital campaign. You all have our brochures there. We are now state certified. We've had the DOD look at us, check us over, run us twice, we're good to go. We have a proclamation from the mayor in Charlotte, former mayor, Mayor Roberts, and we now have one from Governor Cooper himself, certifying us that we are a corporation that the entire state of North Carolina is behind. We don't know exactly where we're going to build right now. We are in talks. Some really good options have come to the table, but we want to make sure that a town like Indian Trail and a town such as Matthews has complete involvement in this thing. So we want to make sure that we hear your ideas, hear your concerns, let you know who we are in case you don't know, how far we've accomplished and come so far. So by any means, if you have any questions, you have our email there, our website's on there, our email's on there. And again, we just want to be a part of everything that, the state of North Carolina has going on going forward, so we can educate our communities and our youth on what veterans are, what they've done, their accomplishments. We're going to make this thing grand. And thank you again. We love you guys.
Mr. Drafton?
Yes,
Did we
sir.
hear you correctly? You walked from Raleigh to Charlotte?
Yes, sir. Our first walk was actually from Fort Bragg to Charlotte, which was 146 miles. And our second walk was 179 miles from the city of Raleigh to Winston and then back down to Charlotte. And then we have 2 more planned. We have one coming up in April where we will be going from Veterans Park in Charlotte to Veterans Park in Mint Hill. And then we have a 200-mile walk where we're going from Asheville, Roundabouts, back to Charlotte. So putting a lot of legwork in to make sure we got boots on the ground. So. Because the last thing we want is for people to think we're veterans out here begging. No, we're boots on the ground. We're going to make sure we do the legwork, literally.
That's an impressive walk. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council.
Myron George. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Good evening, Mayor Alvarez and members of the Town Council. My name is Myron George, and I live at 802 Emerald Bay Drive in Salisbury. My wife and I recently moved there. We were residents of Indian Trail for a long time, and we still spend a lot of time here in Indian Trail. We love Indian Trail, and we are members of First Baptist Church in Indian Trail, and I have some of my members of our church here with me tonight. I'm here this evening to represent our church, and we wanted to start out this brand new year with you by encouraging you and telling you how much we appreciate what you do. We know that the job that you do is a difficult job. We know that the job you do requires sacrifice, not just on your part, but also on the part of your family. And we want you to know that we appreciate you and are praying for you. As followers of Jesus Christ, we take our command to pray for our elected leaders very seriously. We want you to know that we are committed to praying for you and asking the author of all wisdom to give you the wherewithal to equip you to make the tough decisions that you have to make for the thousands of people who live and work here in our community. So tonight we've brought you sort of a unique gift, and it is called a Founder's Bible. And of course, you would expect that it does contain God's Word. But in addition to that, it contains hundreds of pages of fascinating and true history of the founders of our country and how they relied on the wisdom that's in the book, as well as on the prayers of the people. So as you turn to the presentation page in these Bibles, which we'll give you in a minute, you'll see the signatures of many people that have signed their name as a pledge to pray for you. Unfortunately, we couldn't put all of the signatures in each Bible because we had almost 3,000 people sign a pledge to pray for you.
30 seconds, Mr. George.
So we hope you will accept this humble gift and use these Bibles as a token of our appreciation and to remind you of our commitment to pray for you each day. Thank you very much for your service to us, to Indian Trail, and to our country. And may God bless you as you go through this year in your elected role as an elected official. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor Alvarez, could we give you?
Yes,
Bible?
please.
Very much. Thank you, sir. It's an honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you. Mr. Alvarez, I'd just like to say,
Yes.
as long as we got people praying for us, don't give them 30 seconds. They can have as long as they want if they want to pray for us. Thanks.
As you can
Thank
see,
you.
I hesitated to say that. And I think Monty moved a little bit further away from me as I did.
Thank y'all very much. This is
Thank you,
an
Myron.
honor.
Very thoughtful.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll close the public comments. And that brings us to our law enforcement update. Captain Coble.
It's gonna be a hard one to beat. I'm gonna be quick. I was told to be quick tonight, so. Got a couple of things I'm gonna recap. The council knows a little bit of this information, but I wanted to go back over it again, just for those of you in the audience that may not have read it on Facebook or seen it here recently in the news release. But last Monday, on January the 15th, a little bit after noon, some of our deputies were dispatched to a home on Chelsea Lane, which is over off of Rogers Road. And the call, whenever I heard it come out, was a potential break-in progress. And then they went on to describe that the people that they had seen get out of the car and going toward their neighbor's house were wearing masks. So that doesn't really meet a break-in for us. That starts getting up to a different level. And so the guys were on the way over there, and the caller did a good thing and stayed on the line. They were just a bystander at a different house and saw this going on and saw two gentlemen run up to a house. And so they ended up staying on the line with the dispatcher, and these folks came running back to their car and took off and left. But then surprisingly, a few seconds later, they turned around and came right back, got out and went back to the house, but they weren't wearing their mask then. So we got a deputy on the scene, and he found the car sitting empty in the middle of the street with the driver's door open. He got out to investigate, and another deputy pulled up behind him. And as they were walking up to a car out from behind a privacy fence, ran a young man who 18 years of age, I believe it is, that ran out behind a fence, privacy fence, and was started toward that car, and our deputy was able to get to him and get him in custody and detain him. And Mike Henry, and some of you guys know Mike that works up here with us, Mike went around behind the house and was able to find the other kid, who was 17 years old, in the backyard watching the back door, and was able to get him into custody. And he had a loaded pistol on his person, and when they got him back to the car, they found a stolen AR-style rifle that was laid in the front seat of the car, along with a bulletproof vest, gloves, mask, things. So, and then there was spent shell casings in the floorboard of the vehicle. So it was pretty apparent to them and to the rest of us as we got there that they weren't there to commit a break-in. Initially, at least, they weren't. And so, long and short, what we found out is that they came there to rob this place, rob this house in the middle of the day on a Monday, and they recognized that nobody was at home, so they went down the street and took off all their robbery gear and then went back and was going to go to break into this house. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that most of the time in the middle of the day, you're not going to be a target of a robbery unless you're up to something. So we went to go knock on the door to make sure everybody in this house was okay, and you know, you could smell the Cheech and Chong marijuana by the time you got up close to the front door. So went ahead and got a search warrant on that property. It was unoccupied, and carted those two yahoos on off down there to the jail and started interviewing them, and got the weapons and all that stuff secured. And so once we were just about ready to serve the search warrant on the house, I'm just going to admit we're good, but luck was on our side this day. So the postman pulls up and he's got this big box, and he says, "I got this box that I want to deliver here." Well, James Godwin, one of our guys that works here in Indian Trail, James spent years working on the DEA task force up in Charlotte doing narcotics and drug interdiction. And so James just lit up like a kid that you just brought into the Toys R Us on December 24th and gave an open checkbook to him. And James says, "Well, let me see that." And he looks over at it, and it had, you know, the package was coming from California. And James says, "Well, he's absolutely going to want that if you'll just go right up there and put that on the front doorstep." And he's not at home right now, but he's going to want that package. So long and short, whenever we got done with it, that package contained about right at a little bit less than 3 pounds of THC extract, marijuana extract on wax. We found a little bit less than 2 pounds of marijuana inside the house, a stolen handgun, and some other paraphernalia. So it turned out to be a good day to come in and work on a holiday for us. But I guess what I get out of that is that we've had in years past, and people that have lived around here in years past have heard about other robbery situations, and the one that comes to my mind is another narcotics-related robbery that took place on Secret Shortcut Road a few years ago, where 2 people lost their lives in it. And I'm a firm believer that had the kid been at home at this house that was dealing marijuana and had that stolen handgun sitting in his living room, and these 2 yahoos would have broke in the house or forced their way in, they would have probably ended up in a gun battle, and you'd have wound up with 1, 2, or possibly 3 young men who went array in their youth and wound up dead over here in one of our neighborhoods. So I'm pretty proud of that. I think it came out the best way it could come out. Glad none of our guys got hurt. Really proud of that neighbor that picked up the phone and called, because I'll preach this to everybody, is I can't be everywhere. So, you're my eyes and ears out here in the community. So to pick up the phone and call 911 and get involved. Too often we hear later on from somebody that says, "Yeah, I saw such and such, but I didn't want to pick up the phone." So that neighbor just needs to be patted on the back over and over from us. So our snowfall last Wednesday was somewhat uneventful. We had a lot of crashes around town, but that's uneventful because we knew that was going to happen. I think the town manager did a good job of making decisions based upon, the weather conditions that were ever changing. But I can commend Patrick on that. Patrick was up early, texting and calling Chase up early now. But he was here. He was at the town hall. If somebody would have tried to come here and take the building away, Patrick was going to fight them off. But he was here during the weather event. But most importantly for us was Patrick was in communication with us the whole time, wanting to know if there was anything that we needed. And so that was a good feeling. And so I just commend Patrick for offering up, if we needed sand anywhere, if we needed the public works guys to come in, he made the resources of the town available to us. Luckily, it was a kind of an in and out kind of type storm, but we did have good support of the town through Patrick. So I just wanted to pat him on the back in front of all of you guys. Josh is back here in the back, one of our newer deputies that's coming to us. David said he didn't recognize him earlier.
You ruined it. I was going to ask you that question.
Josh was out and caught some kids tearing up some fields over near Johnny's house, and we had another one over near Henry Bridge Elementary, so we did have some teenagers get out into some farm fields and tear up some crops and stuff, but other than that, I think everybody stayed at home and built a fire and went and got their milk and bread and enjoyed themselves, so. Has anybody got any questions of me over that?
I just have one. Welcome back, Josh. I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chase. That brings us to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Cohen's made a motion. All in favor? Motion approved unanimously. Brings us to item 9, public hearings. Item A, annexation. Annex number 150, Brandon Oaks, Fripp Lane, 3+ parcels. Ms. C.
Thank you. I think Rox is going to be Vanna for me. Are you ready? Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to roll this in similar to the way I did at the last meeting. I'm here to discuss an annexation and zoning map amendment for 4 parcels that are located within Brandon Oaks. Here's a location overview. You can see the location in proximity to Sun Valley Commons, and the parcels are located within the yellow circle there. It's actually 3 residential parcels and a portion of the common open space. For an overview, Brandon Oaks consists of approximately 1,300 units. All but 20 are located within the town of Indian Trail. Those 20 including these, are located within unincorporated Union County. So upon approval of this annexation and the zoning map amendment, we would be left with 17 parcels still remaining in unincorporated Union County. As a note, one of the benefits to annexing into the town, of course, is that town of Indian Trail residents do receive solid waste service through the town. Brief overview, the properties in question are 2013, 2015, and 2017 Fripp Lane. Each property is improved with a single-family home. And also, the 4th parcel involved here is a portion of a common open space, and that piece is what makes these 3 residential pieces contiguous. And so that makes the process to annex in easier. The property owners did request to be annexed into the town. We did not, like I say, this was initiated by them, but the town is serving as the applicant. The request is simply to annex into the town. No changes are proposed on the parcels. So the request upon annexation would be to rezone from residential single family in Union County to our equivalent, to annex into residential single family in Indian Trail. Sorry, there's a typo there, but SF5, which would be consistent with Brandon Oaks. Again, so companion case here would be it's annexation 150, and then it's also the zoning map amendment. Collectively, the 3 residential properties and also the portion of open space total of 1.653 acres in size. Surrounding zoning, you can see the bright yellow represents Brandon Oaks, and then you have the other residential neighborhood that's located just below. It's a bit gold, and of course that's the lightest shade of yellow up there is our lowest, next to lowest density residential district. And of course, again, across the way would be our commercial, which is Sun Valley. According to the comprehensive plan, this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. You can see represented yellow there is Brandon Oaks. And you can also see it does show this portion of Brandon Oaks that's not currently within the town of Indian Trail, in the town of Indian Trail. I have provided just a copy of the survey. Again, since the town is serving as the applicant, this survey shows what will be recorded, and you can see Fripp Lane there, and then also Ponytail Drive, but along Fripp Lane is where you can see the text on those 3 parcels, which represents the residential parcels coming in. And then you can see with an arrow pointing there the portion of the open space that'll come in. So regarding the annexation, it is consistent with the North Carolina general statutes. Staff does recommend approval of the request. Regarding the zoning map amendment, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan in terms of quality of life and land use and housing. It is a reasonable request, and the planning board did vote on their December 19th meeting to recommend approval, and staff also recommends approval. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and read the consistency findings into the record for the zoning map amendment portion of this. The proposed UDO amendment is consistent with the following goals of the comprehensive plan. Quality of life, goal number 1, the proposed map amendment will maintain the unique identity in this area, which is predominantly characterized by Brandon Oaks, the largest residential neighborhood in Union County. Land use and housing goal number 1 and 2, enhance the existing vibrant Brandon Oaks community, which is located in close proximity to Sun Valley High School, as well as commercial uses at the neighboring shopping centers located within the town of Indian Trail. This rezoning request is reasonable and is in the public interest because it promotes the goals of the Indian Trail Comprehensive Plan in the areas of quality of life and land use and housing, and it is consistent with the adopted plans of the town of Indian Trail. So again, before you, you have 2 action items. Again, they are both for the properties in Brandon Oaks. The first action would be to discuss and either approve or deny, or you could request more information, I suppose, for the annexation. So that would be annexation number 150.
Okay. Council, any discussion? There's no one that's signed up for public comments?
I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
Excuse me. Do the applicants incur any cost to be annexed through the process?
There's no application fee for the actual annexation itself, and there is a slight uptick in the taxes that they'll have to pay. But they did speak with our tax gal, and it comes out to be about a wash, I believe. By the time they pay for, not a wash, but it's not much more with the trash service that's provided. So by annexing in, they are paying town taxes, but the trash service is being included, and they do not have to pay for that separately. Whereas obviously, if you stay in the county, then you're paying it separately. So that certainly they were okay with that, and we made sure that they were all comfortable with that, all 3 applicants.
I assume they were made aware of the other benefits with the parks and
Yes,
some of
sir.
the rentals and,
Yes, sir.
okay. You mentioned 17 other parcels of property. Were those surrounding those 3 on the
Yes, sir.
end?
Thanks, Ross. You can see anything in this, it kind of makes a J shape or hook there. Anything aerial, yes, sir, would still be in unincorporated Union County.
So these folks, they reached out to the town. Has the town reached out to these other 17 units? It's almost like one of our donut holes.
Yes, sir. This came about because for some reason these property owners were receiving trash service as if they were already within the town, and I believe Solid Waste reached out to them to say, hey, we want to let you know that you're actually within the county. If you do want to continue receiving solid waste service through this town, you would need to annex into the town. Or, of course, they had the option to stay in the county and find their solid waste service with another company. I have reached out to the Brandon Oaks HOA to see if they would like me to attend a meeting to let them know, that they're certainly welcome to annex in as well. I've not yet attended a meeting, but I've extended that offer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? There was no one signed up for public comments, so I will close the public comments at this time. If there's no further discussion, we need a motion to accept the consistency findings.
Not on
No,
this one.
not on this one? Oh, okay, just the motion to approve as presented, deny, or request more information. I
I'll make a
stand
motion to
corrected.
approve as presented.
Mr. Cohen's made the motion to approve as presented. All in favor? That would be unanimous. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then for the zoning map amendment portion, this would require first to take action on the required consistency findings, and then second to make a decision on the zoning map amendment, whether that's approve with modifications, deny, or request more information.
Okay. I need the first motion, council.
I'll make a motion to make the required consistency findings as read into record by staff.
Mr. Cohen's made the motion to accept the consistency findings. All in favor? That would be unanimous. I need one more motion, council.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Mr. Cohen's made a motion to approve as presented. All in favor? That would be unanimous.
Thank you. Ready
Oh,
for
you're
the next
welcome.
item?
No. Conditional zonings, item C2,
Yes, sir.
CZ 2017-0121, Backstretch Boulevard in Bonterra, ordinance number 278. Ms. C?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this request is for a parcel that's approximately 2.011 acres in size. It's located around the Bonterra Village Town Square. The existing zoning is conditional zoning SF5, and the proposed zoning would still be CZ SF5. The intent here is to amend the provision from live-work units to residential townhomes only. The applicant, I want to make clear, the applicant was originally requesting that, actually, is there a picture next? Thank you. Okay, so back it up a little bit. This is the stick of what looks like townhouses as you see around the Bonterra Square right now. But they are actually live-work units, so they have the option to have a commercial component on the bottom and then have the residential portion on the top. So originally, the applicant was going to request that the 5 units that they own also be changed to simply just be residential, and so they would function like regular townhomes. It's not the case tonight. Tonight, what we're looking for is just that the rest of the property, and I apologize, I don't have that there. Thank you. So that area outlined in red that also goes around the gazebo, it's currently vacant, but the plan is to build 2 more sticks of townhouses, 2 more rows of buildings there that would only be residential townhouses. So that's the request before you. And so those 5 units, and I'm certainly speaking to Mr. Head here, I know you remember this from the planning board. So those 5 units, that's not requesting to change. Simply, they just want to say that when these new buildings are constructed, it's just going to be residential townhomes. So that's the request before you. And you just got a picture of what it looks like currently, and the applicant has indicated that that's, for all intents and purposes, very much so what it's going to look like for the new construction. And then, so surrounding zoning, again, this is located in the middle of Bonterra Village, so it's certainly consistent with that. And for the comprehensive plan, it is also consistent with that. So there's no need to make a change there. We were required to hold community meetings. We did hold 2 on October 30th. We had approximately 7 members of the public in attendance. Their main talking points were about the design of the new construction. What's the new construction going to look like? And the applicant did let them know that it's going to look largely like what is currently there. And also, they were concerned with whether their property is going to be impacted, and the applicant assured them that it would not. It's just going to be property owned by them. For conditions of approval,
Oops, sorry.
thank you. Okay, so for the draft ordinance that's included in your packet, this would maintain consistency with the original approval document, which was SUP 2001-005, and then for dwelling units. So each townhome will only consist of 1 dwelling unit, so it would not be apartments. It wouldn't be 1 unit on the bottom, 1 on the top. It would just be strictly traditional townhomes. And then also the future townhome construction will include 2-car garages. So, recommendation. This is consistent with the comprehensive plan. At this time, I'm going to read the consistency findings into the record. The proposed UDO amendment is consistent with the following goals of the comprehensive plan. quality of life goal number 1. The proposed map amendment will enhance the unique identity in this area. Land use and housing goals number 1 and 2. The proposed amendment will add to the housing options available to residents of Indian Trail. This rezoning request is reasonable and is in the public interest because it promotes the goals of the Indian Trail Comprehensive Plan in the areas of quality of life as well as land use and housing. It is consistent with the adopted plans within the town of Indian Trail. The planning board did recommend approval of this at their November 21st meeting. So again, before you, you have two separate action items. The first is to make the required consistency findings, and then the second would be to approve with modifications, deny, or request more information. Do you have any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Just one. Originally, maybe I misunderstood you, they were wanting to change the Live Works to just townhouses.
Yes, sir.
Did you just tell me that they're not doing, on the existing ones, or they're gonna be,
No,
they're gonna
sir.
still leave them as Live
Yes,
Work?
sir. That is correct. They just found that hadn't been too successful, but then for right now, they're just gonna leave those alone. So nothing's gonna change on what you currently see.
Okay, well, good, because I thought at first that they were gonna try to change those too, which is fine. It didn't matter to me one way or the other, but
Yes, sir, you
just,
are
it's just
correct.
nice to know, yeah.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Any other questions? No one signed up for public comments, so I'll close the public comments, and that leads us to our motions. Council?
I'll make the motion to make the required consistency findings as read into the record by staff.
Mr. Heads made the motion to approve the consistency findings. All in favor? That would be unanimous. I need a second motion.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Mr. Cohen makes a motion to approve as presented. All in favor? That too, motion passes. Thank you. That brings us to item 10, old business, town hall budget update. Mr. Sadik, I yield the floor to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I'm showing here on the screen is a total of items that we need to have for town hall. As you know, we came under budget, approximately about $350 plus some $1,000, $350,000. Our staff did the landscaping and irrigation. We had a budget of 70. We saved about $14,000. There was never a generator assigned for this building, so we wanted to have something in case of emergencies. Wayfinding inside the building was priced at $20,000. We went out, shopped around, and we made it happen with $1,260. Site sign, we're reserving this money to have a sign at the intersection of the entrance with Indian Trail. Rear parking, we could add 20 more parking spaces in the back, 18 to 20. That will cost us $25,000. Open space, which is the space up front, we haven't assigned any money for that. Lobby picture frames, we assigned some money in case we need some for the Art Society or any other frames. We did order 35 chairs and 4 tables for the community room. Our church visitors on Sunday, their number is becoming larger, so we could fit 4 more chairs, 4 more tables, 35 more chairs, so they're underway. We should be receiving them soon. We are required to have a fence around the pond. That's for $6,000. Receptacles, we already spent about $4,000. The berm in the back, it was landscape on one side. The side facing the track was not. That was out of the scope. Window blinds, we did have a consultant came in. We have approximately 55 or 56 windows that will require blinds. So that's under order. Podium, we ordered another podium similar to this one, a bit more economical to put it in the Rotary, in the room where Rotary and other clubs meet. Outdoor tables, that's also ordered. That's approximately about 30 more seats that's on the outside for HOA and whoever leaves the community room. Panic buttons, as discussed with Chase, and we have to have one for the front of the building. And alarm monitoring, the same thing. We have discussed that with 3 companies. We should be getting final pricing from them. And the lettering for Town Hall, this is the lettering that goes on top of the front of the building, and that is under order too. And the $8,000 for security cameras that will monitor the back parking lot and the front parking lot. So after all that, we still end up with about $100-something thousand left in the savings from the budget. And most of these items were not included in the original budget for the project. Just wanted to share that with you. Any questions, Mr. Mayor, Council?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes, sir.
Patrick, I just have one question. I'm not an interior designer by any means, but outdoor tables, $26,000. It seems like a lot of money. I'm not questioning because you've already came under budget, but that those must be nice tables, or is that? I know that's chairs too, correct?
Right. This is the tables and the chairs, and that's a good question, David. We do have concrete in the back. This type that we, correct me, Adam, the type that we selected, the way you secure it to the concrete, it will hold the weight, but it doesn't puncture a lot of anchors in the concrete that cause it to crack. But the quality, we looked at 3 vendors. By the regulations, we have to look at 3. And this is the best product we kind of found that will match the exterior and the interior of the building.
Any other questions? Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, sir.
Next item on the agenda would be item B, concealed weapon permit, ABC license application. Captain Coble.
About this item as everybody. No, just kidding.
And I caused it.
So Patrick and I have been having some discussions here lately about the ABC permit application process for the town of Indian Trail. Forget this concealed weapons permit part. Patrick was thinking about his gun permit when he typed this thing. But so we've had discussions about this because some of us remember back whenever the council passed, it was sitting at the time, passed for ABC. Shirley, help me what year it was.
2007, something.
Yeah, 6 or 7, somewhere in there. So one of the things that they did at the time was you had a lot of people coming to a lot of meetings that was on both sides of that fence. So at the time, the sitting council decided that, okay, well, we're going to do record checks on everybody that applies for an ABC permit. So David goes and buys a building and is going to open up a bar, and he's going to hire Chase as the manager. Somebody there has got to be the ABC permittee. And so the town at the time chose, whenever they adopted their ordinance for ABC, that they were going to do a background check. I'm just here to tell you that we've gone all these years and all we're doing is duplicating service that the state's already doing. We, the sheriff's office, don't issue out ABC permits. The town doesn't issue out the ABC permit. You simply have a say in the local opinion form that the town gets to fill out to decide whether or not, from the zoning and regulation standards and whatnot, is that proximity for a location like that, is that a good area for it? But I have seen other ones in the past where the town has checked, not recommended to issue out, and it still gets recommended from the state. The state does their own background through the ABC Commission. So I'm just here to kind of get a little bit of a consensus as to whether it's worthwhile for us to work with Karen to maybe remove that part of there so that Alicia and some of these girls downstairs aren't duplicating state work for trying to do the background check. And you, as the town, have a contract with the SBI that had to be drawn up for this so that we could do a background check and then release it to the town manager. A lot of things went into play to try to make that happen, but at the end of the day, I'll stand up and say it in front of everybody, it was a duplication, and it was just a feel-good. It was just a feel-good is all it was, because that gets done anyhow. So kind of just by consensus as to whether or not it was worthwhile for us to move forward to try to remove that. It doesn't mean that everybody and their brother just gets to go get an ABC permit. They still have to follow the same process. What it does is it takes away the steps in that process that they have to come down here and fill out about 4 sheets of paper, and then Alicia or one of the town people have to bring them over and meet with us at our building, and they have to be fingerprinted, and then we have to send off that criminal history check. Whenever it comes back, then we have to bring it over and deliver it to Patrick. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of work, but when these girls have got other things to be doing, you know, and then knowing that it's a duplication, it doesn't really matter anyway. So I just wanted to bring it before you, see whether or not it was something that was interesting as far as a cleanup item, just to kind of make it where these girls didn't have to get sidetracked in the middle of their workday. So, anybody got a question about it?
So what do we have to do to change it?
So just kind of tell me, hey Chase, I think it might be a good idea for y'all to move forward, and we'll get together and pull that old ordinance out and look at what they've got to do to strike that out of there and bring it back before you just for an amendment.
Council?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
And then while I got your attention, I forgot something a while ago, so I'm gonna throw it in here now. If you go on to the Sheriff's Office Facebook page, if anybody here is interested in, we're doing a church safety seminar. We're doing actually 3 of them that are coming up. And so on our Facebook page, or you can call down to our main office and they can give you the information on how to register for it. But it's for safety and security teams that are around at these different churches, you know, across the country. We've seen things go on and propensity for violence on folks that happen even at churches. And so we want to get the word out from some of our training guys that have come together on their own and said, you know what, we're gonna hit this and target churches specifically. So send over a couple of representatives from each church, and they're spreading the word throughout the county. But I said I'd put a plug in for it too. And then we're coming up on the springtime, and in March of this year, on March the 10th, Chad Barbie is going to run again for Hometown Heroes. And so I wanted to put a plug out there for that. Anybody can go on Hometown Heroes website and look for Barbie's thing on there where he's going to run 40 miles. Not as much as these gentlemen walked across the state, but Chad's running it. And last time he ran across the county in about 3.5, 4 hours. And I couldn't have drove it in a car some days with traffic. 4 hours, but he's going to run from our office down there in Wingate, across from Wingate University, all the way to downtown Charlotte at Levine's is where he's going to end at, and he's got a fundraiser going for that. So I want to put a plug out there for him for that. So thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Jay.
I would be curious how much that duplicity cost the town.
I'm sorry?
I would be interested in how much that duplicity
Okay.
cost the town.
Any other questions? That brings us to new business. Item A, Indian Trail Complete Street Conceptual Design. Mr. Sadik, the floor is yours, sir.
It's okay. It's okay. I'd like to give Mr. Mayor, Council, update on the Uptown project, which is the complete street. What we did recently, we met with a certified consultant, and we shared with them the improvements that we would like to see, because funding is going to be nearby, and we need to take advantage of the money to go ahead and start building the project. Adam, that's fine. Thanks, sir. Simply what I did is, this is the concept that we're going to give our consultant to move forward with. We only have 50 feet. We have 50 feet of right-of-way. When we submitted our application to CRTPO, we submitted it based on that no real estate acquisition. So that line of the back of the sidewalk, that's exactly what the town owns. So in order to fit everything within 50 feet, we do have a sidewalk on both sides, 5 foot each. We, as you see, we could provide parking spaces that they're 22 feet long and approximately 7.5 feet wide, which is typical. You could find that in many downtowns. Also, the pedestrian crossing, those red bubbles that you see there, locations that we could plant some trees. And the way they're round is because the driveways, kind of you have to have the arc on either side. And what we did, we're trying to match every entrance the way it exists right now, so the property owners out there will not have any issues with their parking or access to their parking lots. This is the easy part right now, is to generate a concept and give it to the consultant. So what we're going to do it block by block and deliver that to the consultants, and he will do the engineering. We do have budget, as you know, $3.85 million, and we need to be very cautious about how we spend the money, because we do have some challenging items out there. The main ones are the overhead utility that I think as a big ticket item we might need to work around that. Drainage is another item, and underground utilities is another item too. Briefly discussed this project this afternoon with the county manager, Cindy Cotto, just to make her aware that we might be running into relocating or upgrading some utilities, or if they have a plan to upgrade the utilities, we have to coordinate that within our projects. But simply, we could fit everything we need within that 50 feet, as you see it. And this is the most challenging part of this project, by the way. I selected this segment because I would say it's the most challenging, and we have to work very closely with CSX. CSX, sometimes it takes them too long to respond and deal with, but we do have to create a brand new, better crossing for pedestrian across the railroad track. So I wanted to share that with you. We are moving to complete the rest of the segments. The consultants will be submitting a proposal for us that we'll bring before you. As soon as he does that, we will unleash the preliminary engineering. We will start with surveying, and I will keep council update on the funding. Any question, Mr. Mayor, Council? Mr. Cohen?
Patrick, I never thought of this before, and maybe it's a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Obviously, you don't have an exact cost because you don't know what some of this stuff will cost. And I know we got $3.8 million to do it. Is there a possibility that you get into this project, and if you do run into, let's say you run into some big expenses that you didn't count on, what exactly would we do at that point? Is there a point that you could back out of this thing and say, hey, instead it's going to cost X amount of dollars, we didn't realize it was going to cost $6 million to do it because we have to do it a different way? Is there a possibility that we can say, hey, wait a minute, we can't afford it, or are we already in it and have to do it?
This is an excellent question, David, and we do have a contingency plan for that. If I take just the surface improvement from Shady Bluff all the way to Gribble, with the sidewalk, parking, resurfacing, signage, any of that stuff that I mentioned, we could very easily do it with $3.85 million. And of course, we're going to keep some contingencies out there, and the design money is part of that too. Now, what we're planning on doing with this project is do it in segments. What we're responsible for and what we promise CRTPO is to create pedestrian connection to Independence. So if we do it in segments, we will do one segment, monitor the budget, move to the other segment, monitor the budget, and we feel, David, if we feel that we're getting into that point, we'll reserve that money for the ped and bike trail to take it to Independence, and then we'll close the project. And what we're doing here is you're not going to feel any difference between the width of the lanes that exist right now and what we're proposing. So maybe later on, if we feel that we're going to run into trouble, then probably we will hold on until the town could finance that. But it all boils down to ownership from North Carolina DOT. So the first thing we need to do is take over the project, and with that, we will also get some additional funding. They offered so far about $180,000 to maintain the roadway. If we're going to take it from Monroe to Independence, they will offer us some more money. So yes, David, we have to have a contingency plan. If we run into any trouble, we're going to try to find a stopping point. But from my previous experience, I think all that surface stuff that you're looking at, we could very easily do it with $3.85 million.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, sir. I hope that answers your question, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, sir. We're good.
That brings us to appraisal zoning of town property. Mr. Sadik?
Yes, I'm going to just say a few words and turn it to Rox. We did receive the appraisal. It's the market value for the property is $340,000. Based on the information that I received, historical information that I received from Council Member Howe, I think about maybe 9 years ago, it was appraised about $240,000. And what we're trying to do right now is trying to rezone the property, and I'll turn it to Rox to talk about that.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So just to pick up from Mr. Sadek's comment about the appraisal and zoning for town property, if you have driven down Indian Trail Road recently, you've probably seen the big yellow sign that is, or sorry, big white sign rather, that sits on 100 Navajo Trail, our property, notifying that a zoning application from the town has been filed to rezone the property from its current institutional classification to a commercial classification, central business district, which would make it generally consistent with the other properties along the trail. That was, and that makes sense for the desired, the potential desired uses that are contemplated in our downtown master plan. The appraiser that appraised the property had also commented that the current zoning, while it's great for a town or a county to have on its properties, if the buildings are to be reused for other purposes, a more appropriate commercial type zoning classification is needed. So we're kind of following that recommendation as well. There'll be a small little community meeting scheduled, I believe, sometime around the first week of February. Then later it'll go on to the planning board and ultimately to the town council for a final decision. And so that's just as a brief outline. It'll be just like any other rezoning that you heard tonight. So that should be wrapped up relatively quickly, and then it'll transition on to the town attorney to facilitate any additional steps. Do you have any questions I can help with? Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all for that item?
Sir?
Is that all for that item, Patrick?
Yes, sir. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. That brings us to item C, yearly stormwater maintenance contract. Mr. McGram.
Excuse me.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are here, I know the date says 2017 stormwater maintenance contract, and that's because that's when we originally put this out to bid. We went out to bid back in 2017. We're out for about 30 days. Didn't have anybody bid on the project. We went back out to bid once since then, had one contractor bid on it. We negotiated back and forth with that contractor and got the price to what's in the memo, which was $274,016.05. That's to do work cleaning catch basins, cleaning ditches, and about a third of the town's streams. It's to walk those and clean up anything that's in them, to undo any blockages, to get rid of some pretty intense beaver dams that are out on the northern end of town. All this goes back to two studies that were done back in late 2015, early 2016, which was a dry weather screening that has to be done per our NPDES permit, and a closed storm drain system inventory that we choose to do ourselves. But that allows us to be more proactive when we have things like this. We know where we need to go clean and where we can hold off and do it a later time. So tonight we're just looking to approve this project. There is enough funds already in this year's budget under the line item for construction under stormwater to cover this. Any questions?
Ms. Howe?
Would you repeat that, the cost of
The
that,
cost,
please?
yes. It's in the memo. It's $274,016.05.
Mr. Sadik? Yes.
Adam, what neighborhood would the catch basin cleaning we're starting with, and how, you want to elaborate a little bit about how we're moving around town?
Sure. So the start of this contract will start in Beacon Hills. The reason for that is during our study, if anybody knows about Beacon Hills, it's an older subdivision, so it has very mature trees. It's one of the few neighborhoods that we have that has mature trees and curb and gutter. A lot of the ones that we have that have big mature trees are ditch sections. But when you have that curb and gutter, you have catch basins, and you have leaves that fall in them and clog them up over time. So this will go in and vac out all those catch basins. As we go from there, if we have any funds left, then we're going to move towards Chrismark because it's right there. We won't get hit with the remobilization. And then we'll move down Seacrest Shortcut to any neighborhoods along the way that are in the town as we get down towards Bonterra, Annandale. If we've taken over streets at that time in Fieldstone Farms, and then we'll keep circling around the town. We'll keep coming back with more contracts like this to go in and clean out those catch basins along the way. This helps with flooding when we have rainstorms like we had this morning. You know, that water can get off the road, get into the pipe system, and then get to the creek where it needs to go.
Mr. Cohen?
And I'm sure you've done this, but is there any other money that we can get help? I don't know if it's through developers or anyone else that could help with the projects. Is the town completely responsible for all this? There's not any calls for any of this by developers that we could go ask developer money for, say, hey, you know, you created part of the problem.
No, so this is the stormwater funds that we collect. That's what these funds are for, is to go to help with some of any issues that are in town for flooding and different reasons. Developers pay the fees up front, you know, when they're coming through with development and we're doing a review of anything like that. It's not on the back end for this. This is what all your stormwater fees, so the ERUs that everybody pays, whether it's commercial or a residential house or anyone.
Okay, and one last question this is for future thought, and it's really kind of changing the subject real quick. I was driving through Fieldstone Farms the other day, and you had made me think of this, about the streets. I guess they're still, because they haven't been taken over by the town, and I'm assuming and I think it's because the developer hasn't brought their streets up to their, is that true?
I'll let Patrick
Hadn't
answer
brought the
that.
streets up to their standards yet, or what they should be. So hopefully they're still working with the developer on that. But just a comment on that. Man, their streets there are wide. Man, they are very, very wide streets. So just a thought. I'm driving through there, and of course I live in Bonterra, and the streets are small, and it just dawned on me that, you know, if and when the town takes over roads, and they will eventually take over Fieldstone Farms roads, wouldn't it be better that if they built streets thinner? And I know why they build them wider. They build them to code, but for the town's sake, aren't they a whole lot more expensive to take care of when the streets are about double in size?
Oh, yeah.
I totally agree, David, and what Roxanne and I are doing right now, every developer that comes in with a wider street, we're making them aware of our on-street parking ordinances, and also to do it 24, 22, or less than that. We do have a plan that we're going to bring before council one day for all these streets that they're 30 feet and wider. We're going to come in and ask you if you agree for us to go out there and put this median in the middle, landscape that, get rid of some of the extra pavement, and put curb and gutter and decorate that median. What that does, many different things. It reduces the impervious area, it makes it look better, and it's traffic calming device. So that's a project that we're thinking about doing. We do have a lot of these 30-foot wide street, David, you're absolutely right.
And is there a code that those, why were those streets built that wide to begin with? Was that built to a certain code?
We do have different cross-sections, David, and I totally agree. I think the approach that we're looking at right now is that we're going to look at the single family, the sizes and all that, and kind of put before the developer that this is the type of, we're doing the UDO and the land development manual right now, and that's going to be
Well,
coming
good,
soon.
Good, because, I think town could save money in the long run once you take
Exactly.
over streets if they're that, I don't know how much more it costs, but probably a lot more to pave a 30-foot wide road than a 20-foot wide road. Anyway.
Absolutely.
And then I guess just a question, if we put those medians in, then that's gonna reduce our overall maintenance costs.
I agree. That area will be taken out, Councilmember Head. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
So we need to approve that?
Yes, so for this, we need
Okay,
a motion
Mr. Morse?
to approve the contract.
Yeah, Adam, when you put this out for bid and you only had one response, why do you think that's the case?
I think a lot of different things can go into that. One would be when we put it out to bid, contractors right now are super busy. If they're gonna bid on a project, they're gonna give you a cost that they know that they can still make money when they go to do the project. We had a couple of contractors come to our mandatory pre-bid meeting, which we have for all of our projects. And after the fact, we called them to ask why they didn't bid on the project. And a couple of them told us that they just couldn't give us a cost that they knew we would be able to do the project for, that their cost would be way too high for them to pull off of somewhere else and come do the project in town. Another reason is just the size of the contract. We can't compete with contracts that other towns and municipalities put out. City of Charlotte puts out multi-million-dollar stormwater contracts. They pull all the stormwater, people that do stormwater from a contract standpoint, they pull them into the City of Charlotte to do those projects. They probably have 5 or 6 out right now that are over $1 million. So there's just not enough contractors to go around to do the work.
Yeah, I guess my only concern is that we may not be getting the best deal,
So the only thing that I would say for that is we did negotiate with the contractor for over a month. We went back and forth with him on different items within the contract that we didn't think the cost that he had put forward was in line with what we were seeing in other locations. We got some of those down, and we cut out one area of the contract that we're just holding off to do a little bit later, and we'll rebid that section back out. These sections right now, we feel comfortable that we're at a value that is where it should be if we'd have had 10 bids or 100 bids or 1 bid.
If I may add, Mr. Mayor, this type of work is very unique, where some municipalities stop hiring contractors to do that. Just to give you an example, the city of Charlotte, they have 6 VACOLs trucks. These VACOL trucks, they cost about $250,000. So they do it more efficient than contractors. So if we could get that truck one day for $250,000, it will be very easy and more economical for us to do it. The other challenging item too, that those studies also came up with a lot of items that exist within the floodplain. And not a lot of contractors are interested in walking and going to beaver houses and cleaning the floodplain. So it makes it very unique between the cost of the VACOL truck and the cleaning of the floodplain. Not a lot of contractors are interested in that. That's why some municipalities move toward hiring their own crews and buying the VACOL truck.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll need a motion for this. Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
You need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2017 stormwater maintenance contract.
Mr. Heads made the motion to approve. All in favor? That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Brings us to discussion items. Item A, fire tax versus fire fees. Chief Blythe. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Patrick fire tax versus fire fee. Historically, I've done a little presentation for town councils in the past to kind of explain fire protection as a whole for the town of Indian Trail. Hadn't done that in the last couple of years, so I've got a little background information to kind of explain how fire protection is provided in the town. So the town of Indian Trail is 22.1 square miles, 1,500 people per square mile. The town contracts with 6 different volunteer fire departments or combination fire departments to provide fire protection to its residents. Now, those fire departments provide everything from, you know, fire suppression, rescue. All of us are capable of doing extrications on cars. We do rope work, medical first responder. So if an EMS unit goes, we go too. And out of those 6 departments, there's 3 different funding mechanisms. And fire department funding is probably in the forefront of a lot of conversation because that's what's going on at Union County. So currently, Union County's in the process of doing a funding study to determine a funding system for county fire departments. So out of the 6 departments here, we have all 3 funding mechanisms that are going on in Union County. So the fee system. So we're going to talk about fire tax versus fire fee. So the fee system, here's the fee system in a nutshell right here. This is how it works. If you have a single family house on 5 or less acres, you pay $100. Doesn't matter what size house it is, doesn't matter what the property value is, you pay $100. For every 5 acres you have without a house on it, it's 2 cents an acre for a max of $5. And then animal production or horticulture is $10 per site. Commercial facilities less than 5,000 square feet is $50. So if you got a commercial building that's 5,000 square feet, you're paying half of what somebody in a single wide mobile home pays. Okay, it's a commercial facility larger than 5,000 square feet, it's a $200 max. All right, and multifamily, of course, $50 a building, triplex, duplex, and all others a maximum of $200. So Baker's Fire Department, when you look at the map, Baker's comes up to Pickett Circle, let's say, on Old Charlotte Highway, and then down to 74 at the Brickyard, or at Harris Teeter Distribution. So that would be the portion of the town of Indian Trail, and then behind Sun Valley. So they have all the way back to Taylor Glen, where Wesley Chapel picks up. So Wesley Chapel has the corner at Taylor Glen and Magna Lane. So that's all the people in the Baker's Fire District are paying this fee. All the other fire departments, Wesley Chapel Fire Department I just talked about, they're a General Statute 153A 301 County Service District for fire protection. So what that amounts to is their tax district was voted in by the Board of County Commissioners. So every year they prepare a budget, goes to the county Board of Commissioners sets a tax rate for their entire area. So basically, Wesley Chapel has that little corner over there, and then when Providence went out of business, Wesley Chapel picked up their area, so they got a little portion on the backside of whatever the big neighborhood is off Chestnut down there, Brookhaven. Okay, so I get confused on all those brooks. But, so they got a little section of that. And so basically, the way it works is exactly like our tax, except for the county commissioners enacted theirs. Now, Wesley Chapel as a whole, they cover all of Wesley Chapel, all of Weddington, all of Marvin, and then some unincorporated down that way. So they have a pretty large tax base. So the county collects the tax, they charge us 1%. Whatever tax they collect for us, we have to pay them 1% administrative fees. Henry Bridge and Stallings has what's called a North Carolina General Statute Chapter 69, which is a Rural Fire Protection District, which what we did was we went out and collected signatures from all of the residents living in our area outside of the municipality. And then we held a special election. And that special election was to allow the county to assess a fire tax on your property up to 15 cents. Okay, so our process works much the same way as Wesley Chapel. We set a budget at the fire department, goes to the county commissioners, they set a tax rate, fund the fire department. So the deal with this is every single one of these is collected on the county tax bill, so y'all never really see that. So when it comes to fire protection, what you see, y'all don't see what the cost is. So what I did was I put, and that's pretty much in a nutshell, fire tax versus fire fee. And then I'll let you make up your own mind as to how you really feel about which way works best. I did some tax bills from the county. This particular property right here is worth $15 million, $15,710,000. And you can see that the fire fee on that property is $210. Let me explain this right quick before we go to the next one, because Union County has decided to split out their tax bill so you can see exactly where the money's going. And you see at the top Union County, then the school bond, and then a countywide fire tax. So you're charging a little over 1 cent countywide fire tax. One thing to not be confused, we don't get any of that. Doesn't go to the fire department. Doesn't go to any of the fire departments up here. So they're using that to support some of the fee districts on the other side of the county that's in the more rural areas. They're using it to support that. They're using it for the countywide radio system, just like the radio that Josh has back there. We use the same radio system. So that money goes to support that radio system as well, for the school system, for EMS, and for fire and police. Then the countywide EMS tax. So Union County contracted with the hospital to provide EMS, and this is what we're subsidizing that system above what they're collecting on the bills that they send out. If you've ever used them, it's about $1,000. So to go from here to Matthews. So this is the money that the county's subsidizing above that. And then you see the school tax, of course, and then the fire fee. So the fire fee is what Baker's Fire Department gets for providing protection to a $15 million property. Okay. This is another property. Both of these are commercial properties, $17,500,000 property value. This is in Henry Bridges Fire District. Y'all can probably guess this is Walmart. Walmart's paying in fire tax to Henry Bridge, are paying $8,800 versus what the other was Dale Jarrett. Dale Jarrett's paying $210. So you can see their total, if the countywide fire tax and everything included, is $1,843. Walmart's $10,622 is what they're paying for fire protection. So that's the difference in a fire tax and a fire fee. What that does is it allows you to have a different service delivery model. So every fire department has a different service delivery model. Our service delivery model is we have 6 people that work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's what we're able to do with the money that we get. So that's the differences. So go ahead. Now we're going to talk about residential right quick. This is a residential property, and it's off of Wesley Chapel Stouts. It's a mobile home, property value of $32,800, and they're paying a total of $103.41. I just told you that Dale Jarrett, $15 million, is paying $210. This is a mobile home paying $103.41. Adam. This is a mobile home in Henry Bridges area off Secret Shortcuts, $37,400 property value, they're paying $14.67. Now Walmart's paying $8,800, and this mobile home right here is paying $14.67. How many times have we been to this mobile home? Never. I ain't never been there. How many times we go to Walmart? 5 times a week. So you can understand what I'm saying. That's how the fire tax versus the fire fee. The fire tax is much fairer because it's not based upon usage. It's based upon your property value. and the resources that it would take to deal with a situation that, if we have a fire at Walmart, the resources we're gonna have to use is a whole lot bigger than the fire we're gonna have in that mobile home, right? And I think that's how we have to look at it, is the fire tax, is based on property value, just like any other tax. And it works a whole lot better, it's a whole lot fairer. I mean, you could look at any kind of property you want to. You look at a movie theater, the movie theater's paying $210. House next door to it on Pickett Circle's paying $100. Half the price the movie theater's pay. So it comes down to what's equitable, and the fee is just outdated. And so this is what the current rates are. I did not put Wesley Chapel up there. They're about $297. As I mentioned a while ago, they have a whole lot bigger tax base than the rest of us. Henry Bridge Fire Department and Stallings Fire Department are both at $503, and Baker's is on the fee. And then you have the county fire and the county EMS tax. So here are the budgets for those 3 fire departments. Note, this is the per penny value per district. It's a total of $772,062 per penny out of the Baker, Stallings, and Henry Bridge fire districts. And this would be the total budgets. And so based on that, go ahead, Alan. The assumption is that currently we can provide the same protection for a 5-cent tax that the residents are currently paying over 6, almost 7 cents. So I guess where we're going with this in the long run, I told you earlier that the county has just led a study for funding. I just heard that at the last county commission meeting. He's supposed to be at the next county commission meeting to introduce himself. We have worked on the study for the last 6 months. I know the mayor was involved in that. Patrick's been involved with that. The town of Stallings is involved, the town of Lake Park, the town of Henry Bridge. We're all involved in this together. We do have that study back in the second draft. I'm meeting with him the end of this month. So hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll have him here in front of you to present our study, and then basically what we're going to be able to do is put our study against their study and figure out which is best for us. And when I say us, I'm talking about the whole end of the county. Because as you can see, it's kind of difficult for, none of us are going to be able to go at this alone. So it's going to be a give and take situation, and probably looking more towards regionalizing some of those services. So we stop duplicating resources and stop, to be more cost effective. And that's kind of what this study's looking at that we were doing. And so I know that I've already given Patrick the first draft of that. He's looked at it. We're looking at it. The town of Stallings is looking at it. The town of Henry Bridge is looking at it. Stallings Fire Department, we're all involved in it. So hopefully we'll have that back in the next few weeks and be able to give you guys a presentation from him. And that may even be in the form of a work session, where we have opportunity to have some pretty good dialogue. Patrick, did I miss anything that you wanted me to cover?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Scott?
I just wanted to tell Johnny, I can remember when they came door to door collecting money to pay. You gave a donation, whatever you could, and that's how you existed in the very beginning.
That's correct. And the check was always in the mail. We never got those checks. Yeah. And that's actually how I started when I started in the fire department. I went door to door.
If I computed that right, is it $150 per $100,000? Is that equal to 15 cents, or am I off?
Say that again now.
All right. If you own a home in let's say in the Henry Bridge district, would it be $150 per $100,000?
To break even at the 100 for the fee would be a $200,000 property value.
Okay, tell me, what would a $200,000 property value call? How much tax would you be paying?
At a nickel?
Yeah, at a nickel.
You'd be paying $100.
$100. Okay, so $50 per 100,000, it's basically how it works. My question being to you too, you got Plan A and you got Plan B. Who actually controls, ultimately, and I know you're, and I'm really confused, is there a chance that you come up and and obviously you've showed us it's less expensive to do it this way than it would be, I think, the county's way or the way that they're doing it now. But do they have the control to tell you what we have to do, or is this, and that's the curiosity that I have into this.
Okay, so the way this works, we're a contractor for the town. So we contract just like Chase and his deputies. So you outline what you expect from us in the contract, and then we provide that service. The problem with that is you guys control all of the building and all the zoning inside the municipality, but the county controls the funding. So that's where we've gotten separated. Prior to a lot of the growth, it wasn't a real issue. But as we grow and we do more density, and that's the way of the future, these denser neighborhoods. Bonne Terre is a great example of that. You know, so it takes more resources to deal with a situation in that dense neighborhood than it did in the old 1 acre lots. You know, so what's happened is we're asking the county to give us funding to provide a different service delivery model. So Bonne Terre from our fire station is 7 minutes. I don't care which direction you go, it's 7 minutes. That's entirely too long. We need to be closer. We're going to build more townhomes. We're going to have, by the time we get there in 7 minutes, instead of one house burning, we're going to have 3 houses burning. And that's the situation that we're facing. So you guys control the growth, they control the funding, but we're a contractor to you. So you set out the requirements. The deal is our tax is collected on the county bill, so therefore it becomes a county tax. We're third party to the county. We contract with the county as well. We're not a county department. We're not a town department. We're a nonprofit. So we're a business.
Well, I guess what worries me, and I could be totally wrong about this, is Indian Trail would contract you, or a district would contract you, but yet the county would also be taxing us also, like they would be everybody else, so we'd be paying double. Is that a chance that could happen, or is that?
Well, currently, there is a chance that could happen, yes. But however, they can't collect, unless they do it on the general fund, they can't collect a tax inside your municipality without an approval from this board. So that's why, from the county's perspective, they would just as soon do it on the general fund. The problem with the general fund tax is then they could spend that money wherever they so choose. Right. It's not required to be spent on fire protection like the rural fire protection district or the service district tax are all required under general statute to be spent on fire protection. So that's the kick on the general fund tax. So they're going at it to try to do a service district tax, and to do that they have to have your approval. That's why they sent the letter to the manager, and all of you I'm sure saw a copy of that. That's why that is. They can't collect that tax, a service district tax, without your approval.
They could on a general fund, what you're saying.
That's correct.
But then he doesn't necessarily get the money.
That's correct. There's no guarantee. They try to say that through their budget ordinance, they control how the money's spent, but we all know that that's not true. You know, they could spend that money on schools, they could spend that money on county vehicles, whatever they so choose at that point.
Right.
Right, but there is a danger, and that's a danger that I'm thinking in my mind that could happen, is getting double tax for.
So if you see how the city of Monroe is handling that, the city of Monroe has the only full-time fire department in the county. And the city of Monroe, I don't have any idea what their citizens are paying for taxes, but the county, you know, the original plan was we're going to do a county-wide tax. And the city of Monroe said, hold up. Our citizens are paying for a fire department. We don't want to be taxed. So that's what kind of put the brakes on that. The town of Indian Trail could do the same thing. The town of Weddington also has a municipal district, meaning that the town of Weddington collects their own fire taxes and pays for fire protection. So they don't have a full-time fire department, but they do pay for fire protection. So, you know, the opportunity is if we let them double tax us, they will. If we don't, then they won't.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Can we get a copy of this?
Well,
Okay.
we do have a copy, and
Okay.
I'll email it and make a hard copy,
All right, thank
Councilmember
you.
Rowe.
Okay?
Patrick?
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you. Patrick, could you also put it on the website for the residents?
I'll be more than happy to do
Thank you.
that, sir.
Wow.
Okay, that brings us to item B, the PIR policy. Karen, the floor is yours, ma'am.
I was asked back in May or April of 2017, I don't really remember which one, to review the town's public information request policy. Based on my review of the policy, in addition to some legal research and some conversations with the experts at the Institute of Government, I'm recommending that the town adopt an amended public information request policy. The major amendment to the policy relates to the town's collection of fees for requests that are complex or time-consuming. Our current policy allocates 4 hours per quarter of staff time to each individual or entity that's making public information requests. Anytime staff spends more than 4 hours per quarter on requests from an individual, that individual is charged for that time. This method of charging fees for public information requests does not have statutory authorization, and it would likely not withstand a legal challenge. Because of that, I'm recommending that the town adopt a fee policy that more typically aligns with other agencies of the state. That fee policy is generally if a single request is complex or takes an extraordinary amount of staff time, an amount over 4 hours, then we can charge the requester for that time over the 4 hours. And this is, again, the difference here being that the 4 hour limit is per request, not per requester. And that is the legal line that I think that our current policy crosses. In addition, or just along with that, though, staff will have some discretion, and this is similar to most other public information request policies across the state. If they do receive several requests from one individual in a short amount of time involving a similar topic, they will have the discretion to go ahead and treat that as one information request for purposes of charging the fee. In-house, in my year here, this has not really been a problem. However, I do know if it does come up that Mike and Patrick and I this would go through legal, we would certainly have the conversation about it, make a decision that was well documented prior to taking that step on the charge. Other than that, the changes that I'm recommending in the policy are they either provide some additional information about a specific policy or a specific action by the town, or it's just a clarification of the regular existing policy. So I'm happy to answer any questions you all have either now or if you want to take some time to review my recommended changes, we can talk later. But this has been on the back burner since April, May, so we wanted to get it up in front of y'all.
Any questions?
What constitutes a short amount of time
Under 4 hours. So
in between requests? So
that's something that that's going to be subjective depending on the situation. And again, that's why that situation would come before Patrick, the town manager, legal, and Mike, who responds to those requests for us. And it would just depend on the circumstances. We would have to take a sort of a global view of what came in rather than setting specific timelines on that. So there is some subjectivity on that piece, but we would document that and have support for it prior to charging or considering those multi-requests as one request.
Any other questions? Ms. Cohn?
I, for one, would like maybe if you're looking for an answer tonight, maybe wait till the next meeting. So if anybody thinks of any questions or any if any council member, unless you guys want to go ahead and do it, that's up to you guys, but there may be something that come up that you might want to ask, or we can ask, and bring it up at the next meeting and get it done, because I really, I'd not spoken to you about it. and-
Absolutely. That's why this is just a discussion topic tonight, because I do think y'all need to look through this policy. It's pretty complex, and the North Carolina is an open record state, so it is our public records are the citizens' public records. That's just how it is here. But it is also can be a very expensive and time-consuming chore and job of town staff, and so we're trying to balance that, the rights of the rights and resources of the town with the rights of individual citizens, and so we want to make sure that we're hitting that balance as best we can based on the outstanding law and the recommendations from the experts in the field.
Gotcha. Well, I for one would like to wait and maybe I've thought of a question or something in the meantime.
Council, is
that's
everyone
my-
okay with taking from now to the next meeting to look it over, bring questions back, and put it back on as a
That's fine.
item?
I'm good with that.
Patrick, you okay with that, too? Okay.
And that was the intent tonight, so I'm glad you clarified that. Thanks.
Okay. And Kathy, you have all that? Okay. Thank you. That brings us to item C, the zoning rezoning notification methods. Rox? Evening, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet, you had a brief memo that outlines the current notification processes for rezonings. That notification process centers around posting the sign on a property. It involves mailing letters to neighboring property owners within a certain distance of the property, as well as newspaper advertisements. And I believe as Mr. Councilmember, Mr. Morse, you wanted to open a dialogue about general notification processes. Our process also includes posting on our town website as well. And if anyone has any questions about these processes, I'm open to that, or brainstorming any ideas.
Yeah, presently, you say that we advertise in the newspapers on a rezoning. Which newspapers does that happen? The Observer?
Yes.
Any other questions, Mr. Morse?
More comments than
Okay.
questions, probably. Well, I was, I've been to a few of the planning board meetings where they had these rezones. And one of the frustrations and even on the campaign trail, one of the frustrations with residents is, including myself, is when you're headed down the road, you see a rezoning sign, but it's a small sign from the right of way. To be able to read it, to even see what this rezone's about. So I started looking around the internet and other towns and see what they do. And right now, Stallings, for example, they have comparative to our signs, they're probably 2 or 3 times as large. Where you go down Stallings Road and you can actually read the CZ number posted up on there, versus a sheet of paper that's inside of plastic that's, after it's been raining, it's barely legible. So I think there's some things that we possibly could do better to achieve some goals for the town. One of the things that I think with these rezoning notifications is that we want to increase public awareness, so that if you get more folks that know about it ahead of time, we'll get more input and make better decisions as a community. I think also we can provide more transparency as far as what's being rezoned. Community meetings, I know that we have 2 of those, and typically they're happening on the same day. Do we make announcements on our website about these community meetings? How readily available is that information? These are just some thoughts that I had. I wanted to kind of, kick this off. some of the things that I see, and I have some links I shared with the council late today, and we'll need to, I forgot to copy Patrick with this, but I'll forward this. There are some links to other towns, even very close to us, Waxhaw. They do a great job as far as publicizing what's being planned, when the rezonings are taking place, and the community meetings. Going back to the community meetings, presently, whenever I have been going to the planning board meetings and I would see how many people have signed up or been to a community meeting, it's usually a half dozen or less, for the most part. There'll be a couple at this one, 4 or 5 at a later hour. But what I see with the community meetings, they take place on the same day. They're in like a 2-hour window, and it'll be early afternoon, and then maybe 6 to 8 o'clock at night. Somewhere, that's general. I'm generalizing. Perhaps we need to make it more convenient for the residents to, can we look at maybe doing it on a weekend? Does a community meeting have to take place on the same day for both events? Can we, maybe Tuesdays are better for some groups of folks, and Saturdays are better for another. Something that I'd like for us to look at, perhaps. We have the Civic Plus that does, we can disseminate a lot of the information through it. When folks sign up for park notifications, we get those on a regular basis. And I've seen some of these other towns do this with their Civic Plus as far as with zonings. So we could email folks, wouldn't cost anything additional, or text messaging, you just sign up for that. How about Facebook or other social media sites? Using that to get the word out. And the big thing is just to get more involvement and more input. I think back to the hotel situation, how that could have possibly have been different. Should we be looking at Union County Weekly as far as advertising it? Is this, I don't know how many folks subscribe to the Observer, but is it cost prohibitive to do more than one paper? Is Union County Weekly, would we reach more people that way here in Indian Trail or through the EJ? And I'm not saying one's better than the other, I'm just questioning it. Perhaps we can even put it on a public cable channel. I think last night I was out of my mind, and I was watching the Board of County Commissioners meeting regarding the fire tax, and it was really interesting, and then they cut it off after 1 hour. But it would be nice, maybe we could put it there, and also look at our own website, and perhaps it needs to be revamped. But I did scour I spent a couple hours just looking around at some of the other cities around the country, and there are some good examples of what they put together. Another thing would be, we have the 500-foot rule, adjacent properties. Perhaps, and I saw this on one particular website by one town, depending on what the rezoning was about, they broke it into 2 parts, majors and minors. And if it was a major rezone, they would make sure that all renters, all property owners within 1,000 feet would get a notification. When there were lesser conditional rezonings, they didn't go that extra effort. But maybe that's something we could look at as well. So anyways, I did want to just kind of get this out there, because I think that's a frustrating issue to a lot of folks, is they're like, a rezone's happen, it's a done deal before they even heard about it. And then it's like, and I have a couple of instances in my own personal life where there was a rezone happening real close to the house, and I wasn't one of the adjacent property owners or within 500 feet, but it still impacts me and others as well. So, and right now I know that Lidl did not do a rezone for that property down there, but if they would have done a rezone, I would be outside of the bounds, just barely. My neighbor would be, but I hear it as they're doing the construction down there. So, it's, there should be some consideration for folks that, as well as they can touch it, see it, or hear it, that we should take that into consideration. What do y'all think?
Mr. Head?
Brooks, what are what do we do now as far as putting out a notice?
Sure. And so just kind of in detail for the community meetings, we take out a legal advertisement in the Charlotte Observer. Just to drill in, it wasn't asked, but it kind of was out there, why the Charlotte Observer? Well, several years ago, we did a readership survey that was provided to us. We looked at the Observer and the E&J in Monroe, and the Observer had just a significantly higher distribution rate in the town of Indian Trail. Also, in light of some recent changes the Observer made a couple years ago, our advertisements also appear in all the communities that the Observer serves. So, I get the Charlotte Observer at my home. I see the Indian Trail advertisements in my home paper, whereas before that wasn't the case. So community meetings, we do a newspaper advertisement, we have the sign, then we do a mailing. For the planning board specific, we put of course, the sign, and we do a mailing within 500 feet. I will say that the mailing is never 500 feet. So we generally do anywhere from 515 to 525, and the reason being just because we're using GIS computers in case there's a little bit of error. In your case with the legal, I know it doesn't require rezoning, but you're speculating that you likely wouldn't have received the notice that it had. We typically go beyond even those thresholds. It's just kind of a good judgment, if you will, in terms of broadening that notification window. Well, some people are just outside the boundary, but they may want to know about this given project. And so that's case by case. That's based on the judgment of the person putting together that map. But that's the human touch that we do try to put it, incorporate into the notification process. When the project goes before the town council, which is the actual official public hearing, again, sign, mailing, and newspaper advertisement as well. So you have, for conditional rezonings, you have 3 layers of notification. A couple comments you made about the sign. I know you mentioned earlier, we had kind of a casual conversation some time ago about, you mentioned town of Stallings, and I called them, just, that I haven't seen their signs, but I always see them at 50, 55 miles an hour. So I would say, what do you do about your sign? What do you do, if someone made a comment that they like your signs. And speaking with their staff, and their signs are actually very similar to ours in terms of size. Ours are a little more rectangular, theirs are a little square, but in terms of size, and what's kind of message, they're relatively the same. They just grab your eye. Hey, there's an action that's going to happen at this property. You're right, they do put the case number in larger letters, and really that's just a trade-off, and we can certainly change. We put a lot more information on our sign, whereas they're just putting the case number in a phone number, nothing else. We're putting a little bit more information about the project and some upcoming timelines and whatnot. So there's a trade-off. We can make the case letters bigger and just not include other information. We can absolutely do that, so you would see the case numbers more readily available. In terms of in terms of just overall notification processes, the follow-up to that conversation we had some time ago, we threw out a request for just information through a professional listserv that we were part of for all the planning staff in North Carolina. We just asked a simple question: what are you guys doing that's innovative in terms of public notification for your hearings? And we didn't, to be honest with you, we didn't get a lot of feedback, but the one that we did get, I thought was particularly useful, and it kind of dovetails with some of the comments you made, Mr. Morse, is that one community was a beach community, and they, as you would expect, most of the property owners don't live there. They rent their homes out and whatnot. So what they do is they post their public hearings they use social media to advertise the public hearings and the boards, and so that's just a tool that they use. And I think it kind of dovetails with some of the things that you had mentioned, and just allows people to get more, another avenue to learn about what's going on at the planning meeting or at the board of adjustment or whatever group. So I throw that out as I thought that was something
Well, I had one other question too. I think Jerry had a lot of good ideas on different things. Probably, could consolidate some of them and make it better. But I just want to commend that I think how the town has worked, and one of the things he'd mentioned was the hotel. And I can't imagine doing a better job of getting that out. We had community meetings, we had night meetings. We sent out how far did we go out with that letter that we sent to the community? And spent a mile, I mean, of the area. And, and those are a lot of the good things that we do, or we have done in the past, and to commend our planning staff to let the public know what's going on. And it is the responsibility of the town to let people know what's going on and around them, but it is also the responsibility of the residents to take notice of some of the things. And there's been a lot of things over time, and I'm not certainly blaming the residents, that I've gone to the residents and said, hey, so-and-so, and there's not a lot of interest in the area. And you see that by people not showing up at meetings or having only 2 or 3 people when you even put it out there for the people. So, a lot of things that we do is I think it's the council's job also to get the public to know what's going on. Especially, you made a good comment on a small project or a large project. If there's a large project going on, then definitely we should go to every, maybe go door to door or whatever we have to do. Not you have to go door to door, but yeah, and I know when Jerry suggests we do weekend meetings and things like that, there's staff that has to do that kind of thing. And I know you guys go, oh boy, we get to work Saturdays and Sundays too, but it's still a good idea to get people involved, maybe at night or whenever. But anyway, there's a lot of good that the planning's done, and it's up to the council to get it out there, and up to the town for the people to know what's going on. It's our job, and I think we've done a pretty good job. And especially, you take the project, the big project, the housing, the Heritage. I mean, we had 10 meetings.
Well, I think in total, the developer said there was about 20, or the neighborhood.
Or 20 meetings, and that was because the council generated, said, hey, we want you out here talking to the people to get this accomplished. So, yeah, it is important that we do it and let the people know what we're doing, but maybe not overkill with too much of the, because I guess if you mention it enough, you're gonna find. Don't look for. I guess what I'm saying is don't look for bad things, or just let it out there, and we'll try to help get it done.
So I think they're all good ideas, open
Oh, I think there were some really good ideas. Yeah.
There does need to be some ownership though from the community in terms of wanting to be, this information is important and making themselves aware of what's going on in their surroundings. And our intent here with the signs is just to catch someone's eye and to see the white sign, and all they need to do is call the town. And we're not City Charlotte or Greensboro where we have 50 cases going on and you need a case number or a parcel ID. You say, yeah, I saw a sign on Seacrest Shortcut. What's that all about? And within a couple of minutes, somebody can tell you what's going on, and here's who you need to talk to from the staff to get more information. And so, yes, Ms. Staff.
Do we have anything posted here at the town hall? You have a lot of traffic coming in and out and meeting rooms and so forth. Is there anything here that would advise someone, hey, there is a rezoning? Is there some place we could?
Like a kiosk.
Yes, something like that.
There's not presently a kiosk, a public information kiosk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good idea.
But I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
I think it's,
Go ahead, Jerry.
no,
You mentioned the Observer and that you had done a study some time ago. How long ago was that?
Just roughly, it was probably, I'll say 3 years ago.
Because I think with the cost of the newspaper, I don't know that people get as, I don't know, I mean, we stopped our subscription just because of the sheer cost. And then for us to go through that paper just to read that, that's not the most economical way. I like the idea about signs, making them bigger, and I think most people are aware of this, that, you know, Union County had one right there on Poplin. That the sign, I just happened to see it. It was up, and it doesn't, for some reason, it doesn't stay up very long. I don't know why, but on that particular one, it was up. I saw it one day, 2 days later, it was not there. And, you know, the color was not something that would bring your eye to it. I just happened to see it, and then I saw the developer's sign right behind it, and I said, oh, I know what that is, okay? And I checked, they only do 300 feet. So we're a little bit better. But I think putting it on social media, I think going back and seeing if we're really getting our money's worth with the Charlotte Observer, maybe we spend that money in a different format.
Well, Mr. I will just say for that,
Sure.
on that one point, that the newspaper advertising is a requirement from the state law.
Okay.
There is, I don't disagree with the points.
But does it have to be with the Observer? Can it be?
What the law says, it has to be in a newspaper of general circulation within the community. The comment was made by the Union Weekly. I think we just need to look into that to see if the newspaper would meet that threshold. And, you know, the E&J does, the Observer does, I mean, we'd be happy to. But I don't disagree with the fundamental points you made about the paper. It's not an effective communication tool for public hearing advertisements. It's largely a requirement from the media lobby group, if you will, because it's a revenue source for them. For what it's worth, there's some legislation that's being circulated now to remove that requirement at the state level. Looks like it's actually gotten traction. It's been tried several times and failed, but this year I think it stands a very good chance. And that state requirement may change very soon, but we can certainly look at another newspaper.
The other thing that I did was I put it on next door, the Union County, the one on Poplin about the townhomes. And I actually got probably 75 to 80 responses. Now, out of that, I think we had 2 or 3 that actually went, which is, if that hadn't happened, we probably wouldn't have had anybody there. So I think there's a number of things that we need to do as a council to be able to help the situation when we know it. So.
I think this is good we can discuss this further, but I think it may help to put, to get things in a kind of organized format. We want to look at, putting more resources towards advertising the meetings themselves. So, for example, the planning board meeting, which may have 2 rezonings and something else planning related, but they're all important topics, and focus on, and it's just knee-jerk thought, but advertising the meetings versus focusing on individual cases that may come up 3 times a year or 8 times a year, however many that we get in a given time period. So that may just be something we want to focus on. And again, just throw it out for food for thought. Is do you want to focus on the case itself, or do you want to focus maybe on the meetings?
Rox?
Yes, sir.
Might I interject here? This is a discussion item, and we can go around and round all night on this. And I've took a few notes on what the council was saying. Is there a way we can put a few ideas towards the staff, have them come back with a presentation, and council, correct me if I'm wrong, what we heard here is a few different designs of signs and what might be most impact, if you can get a few designs on that. Increasing social media presence with rezoning, because I know through social media you can pay a fee and have it pop up for everybody in the town that just logs in. Finding the most economical newspaper that is within the statute. Council's word of mouth. A kiosk here when people walk in, a glass case with rezoning information on there when people come in. And put together various, if there's anything else anyone wants to add, or did I pretty much cover it?
No, you did. Indian Trail Factor, that could be another resource, since we
Oh,
already
definitely.
publicized that, the IT Factor that's sent out.
What I'd like to see done again is when we first ran in one election, at every town event, there was a table set up with all this information where your council members took turns sitting at them during the day, or staff members from the planning department sat there and they came and gave information. Then it got to the point, not again talking where the town picked and choose which things they wanted to promote at the town events. But to always have at every event we have, whether it's movie night, have an informational table with all upcoming events and zonings. And I think this council is probably going to be the most involved that I've been with. And having council members there to sit and hand out the information and direct them where to get the information. All this is about as much as we can do. The rest is up to the residents on whether or not they wish to accept this information. Did we pretty much cover it? Is council okay with that? And then Rock's coming back with a little slideshow.
It'd be beneficial if we, Mr. Parks wasn't able to be here tonight, but a lot of what we're talking about is public information, and I think that he needs to be a major part of this discussion. He probably has some good ideas as well, so we can kind of team up and come back at a later time and share some thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you.
Patrick, is that okay with you? Good?
Absolutely, sir.
Is
Yes,
it,
sir.
it's okay with you?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. We'll get Mike Parks involved. Thank you, Rox.
Forward this email to them, and
Okay, thank you.
Pan it.
thanks.
All right, if that's all, that moves us to Gribble Road, Indian Trail Road, South Circle.
Yep, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few moments on this one. This is another alternative to the unsignalized intersections that we're having right now, based on some observations and information that I received from Chase and his deputies. They're always out there during peak hours and during school hours. What you're looking at is a very tight, conservative design that will accommodate a tractor trailer, but it's a safer environment. DOT, they know that we do have 16-some thousand vehicles a day, and we do have some accidents out there. This afternoon, I met with Ms. Cindy Cotho to also reiterate the $100,000 that could contribute to this project. We do have $100,000 from Waste Pro. That's we had that money for roadway improvements, has not been used, still out there in the bank. So if the Union County could share 50% of the project, we'll have $200,000, and we could apply that money to make this intersection with a small circle and a safer operation. So, and this also could be joined to the Indian Trail projects, but if we do get the funding from Union County, we'll go ahead and proceed with the construction of this project. Any questions?
Any other questions?
We need it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, sir.
That brings us to item E, yearly roadway maintenance contract.
Yes, last year, council approved a contract for $25,000, simply what it was, what we call them RPMs, roadway. It's the pavement markers that you see on the roadways that they install every so many feet. We do have many streets in Indian Trail, especially this one, Matthews Indian Trail, if you drive it at night, is very bad. In addition, that is becoming deteriorated. You can't see it at night. I drive it every night. But what you're looking at on the screen is what council allowed us to do, permitted us to do last year. And you drive them at night time, they're visible, they help, and they provide a lot at night time, especially because some of them are North Carolina DOT roadways, but they're not spending any money on those, and they're not putting pavement markings. So in a way, we shared with council last year that this is safer for our residents. So what we're planning on doing this year, another contract. These are the streets that you're looking at. And then the last slide, Adam, it will show us accumulative, and hopefully within 5 years or 6 years, we'll catch up. So you'll see more roadways out there, and it's desperately needed out there, and we're asking council's approval to move with this $25,000 contract.
I agree. I mean, especially when it rains. In bad weather, when it's raining, it's hard to see the lines in the road. So I think this is a good thing to do. I mean, on a safety point of view, it's definitely needed.
So do we need to make a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I make the motion to appropriate $25,000 for RPMs.
Thank you, sir.
As
Okay,
as
Mr.
shown.
Heads made the motion. All in favor? That motion's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Motion
Thank you,
passes. No,
council.
You're welcome. That brings us to the added item E, discussion of surplus budget items. Mr. Wadowitz, sir, the floor is yours, sir. Evening,
Good
Jim.
evening, everyone. Jim Wadowitz, Finance Director. Good to be in front of you again tonight. Before I start, I've got a good feeling just being in the room here tonight. Being with Mr. Crum, it's a real honor to be with you, sir. And then what the church did, you got 3,000 people praying for you. I'm from New York. That kind of stuff never happens. It's a really good feeling, and that made my night. That was beautiful. Budget season's right around the corner. Town manager's already got us working on it, so what we're going to show you tonight is basically a surplus schedule. I'll go over it briefly with you, but it's about $750,000. It's a good news story, of which we're in a surplus position. We're halfway through the year. We're 6 months in. We went through these numbers. I'll go to finance. Finance, what we did, we consolidated. Town manager thought the tax department and finance could get together. Everybody's working a little bit harder. We were able to eliminate a position. Everything's working fine there. Contingency is a good one. We budgeted $175,000. 6 months through the year, we've taken down just $13,000. That was for the Christmas lights. So we still have $162,000 there. Economic development, budgeted at $275,000. We haven't spent anything yet. We have the incentive for $225,000 and the MUSID $50,000 per year. Solid waste is a good news story. We've talked about that. We're running about $5,000 a month ahead of the budget, which was a fantastic number. And Adam's doing a good job on that. Revenues, ABC distribution. We got $163,000 last year on a $100,000 budget, and Mayor Pro Tem Cone and Councilwoman Shirley, and now Councilman Mike is going to help us. We're expecting to get some more money on that ABC. We continue to chip away at that. We're not giving up on that. Town manager stays on top of that. Town manager directed me to meet. We met with all the departments for 6 months. No surprises. Everyone's either on budget or better than budget. Revenues are coming in. We have our first budget seminar Saturday, March 3rd, I think. And for all you new folks, that's going to be kind of interesting. Budget's kind of fun. One way of putting it. So, Patrick, you want to add anything?
No, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
you ended up giving the good news and you left me the bad news. So I don't know how that worked. No, I just like to mention that during the last couple of months here with Town Hall, we did incur some what we call design during construction for Creech. We went over their budget $2,000, and we still have a few invoices I'd like you to be aware. Nothing significant, but we had to do that. And also, we do have some legal fees that we talked about that took care of 3 items that we discussed before. So we do have some savings for Town Hall, and we do have these savings that you're looking at, but very insignificant, not as significant what you're looking at right here. So I just wanted to share that with you. We'll be bringing those back next council meeting. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good job, Jim. Sadik,
March 3rd.
your manager's report.
Budget meeting, March 3rd.
Do I have the last item, Mr. Mayor?
Well, we're up to manager's report.
I believe so.
I don't think we missed anything.
I am taking, I know I've been promising to put, and I'm almost done at the manager's report. I'm consolidating 6 weeks of information, and I will be providing that within the next couple of days, and I appreciate your patience on that. So I'm gonna put all the items, I could spend all night long doing this tonight, but it'll be better in the report, very concise, and it should be coming, I promise, either tomorrow or the day after.
Council comments? Karen?
Behind again, sorry, guys. Mayor Alvarez.
I go first. I want to thank the Veterans Hall of Fame for being here and the gentleman that walked in that walk, and would hope the council would encourage them and help them with the, have that parade here in the first induction ceremony. Thank you, Mr. Crump, for holding out with us. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Yeah. So did they. Even though you had to bring Tim with you. Thank you, Tim, for being here and all you do. Thank you for your service and continued service over and over again. The item that was brought up by Mr. Spur, as far as an ADA person requirement, Mr. Sadik, just verify or debunk that in something, getting something out to the council, please. And as always, Patrick, thank you for the job you do.
Thanks, sir.
It's beyond. I'd like to thank the church for coming and their kind gift, reminding us of that we really aren't in charge and that there are people out there that care about us, and a community is more than just us sitting up here. And as a reminder, we spoke with Patrick and I spoke with Councilman Head. We're beginning the first quarter of this year to start watching and counsel for nominations for Citizen of the First Quarter for 2018. And I had received a piece of mail here. I just wanted to read a handwritten postcard to everybody real quick. Dated 1/9, and this is a credit for Patrick and the atmosphere around here and a particular employee. It says, Mayor Alvarez, wishing you the best for 2018. Also wanting to say, I am amazed. I was leaving a voicemail for Kathy Queen, and a municipal employee who happens to be our town clerk here. And before I left the parking lot, she was returning that voicemail and handling my issue. That has never, in my 30 years of dealing with, in the real estate business, with working with counties, cities, towns in 7 states, I want somebody to recognize Miss Queen in her service. Thank you. And he thanks me and thanks Kathy for her service. But Kathy, this is for you, if you can read the handwriting. It's not for me. It was just
Thank you very
informational. That's a credit for our town clerk and for the management of the staff. Thank you. It's nice to someone that people would be very quick, especially now on social media, to jump out and complain that they tripped over a French fry somewhere. But for someone to take time to write a handwritten note in 2018, that's special. Thank you. And as always, thank you all for staying. God bless you all.
Miss Howe.
Well, we told you it would be a boring meeting. And most of the people here are from the VFW. One thing funny that happened when I saw Mr. Crump over at where he got the award from France for his service, I said, you know, you were picked as the the person for the quarter of the year, and he said, "Did they vote for me?" I said, "Yes," and it was unanimous. Do you remember that? Sure, okay. I was glad to see the Hauser family here tonight. They truly are committed to this town. I know you only gave him 3 minutes, but he told good stories all the time. And when we had the centennial, he spoke for a long time and told stories about the town. So have him do that one day when we have more
Well,
time.
we'd love to have him invited and do something here at the town hall to invite people in.
Right. The other thing is, the county commissioners have a light system on somewhere. They have it built into the dais there. And we should be able to get something that would light up like a yellow light, like you got to, and explain that there, or maybe even write something underneath it. But when you're up there, and I've been up there enough times, and you only have 3 minutes, you try to talk real fast and get your point across, and, you know, you're watching little cards being held up, or you saying you've got 30 seconds, and it takes away from the person giving the comments and us paying attention to them.
I stared at that little clock for 3 minutes and don't think I said anything, because I know what you're talking about.
Yes, yes, that was at the county commissioners, okay. Okay, I went with that. I think that's it, but I appreciate the Bible and the prayers. We certainly need them for health reasons and other family members that are ill right now. So we'll send them a thank you note, and it was a total surprise. And I actually thought we were just going to get a little Bible, you know, like they give them, I think the Rotary gives little Bibles out to the school children. This is very nice, and I really appreciated it.
For the record, they had called me about a week and a half ago to see if I would allow them to come and do that. And by all means, it's their 3 minutes. They're allowed to do it.
That's right. But anyway, again, thanks to the staff. And again, we have to go into closed session, I think, tonight, but that's not going to be that long, so don't get upset about anything. Anyway, thank everybody for coming, and we hope we have more people that stay for the whole meeting. But again, somebody said one time, a long time ago, that one of the council members, I'd like it to get to the point where we're out of the paper, we're not the clowns, we're not, you know, all the names we've been called, and that this council is working together, and I think anybody sitting here can understand and see it right away. So I'm very proud to be associated with all of them. And Patrick, thank you for your great work.
Thank you, ma'am.
I don't know when you sleep, but my goodness. Maybe you're taking some vitamins or something, I don't know, but we do appreciate you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Morse.
Well, it was a good meeting. Good discussion items. And just want to see our town, move forward and become the shining star of North Carolina. And I'm just very blessed to be part of this. And thanks, everyone, for coming out tonight.
Mr. Kiesler.
Two sick ones right here together. I want to thank everybody. This was a good meeting, and once again, staff, can't say enough about you. We get the support we need so we can do what we do up here. Mr. Crump, glad to see you. Thank you. Thank y'all for coming out.
Mr. Cone.
It's got 3 pages.
I know I don't, and I don't have to go to the bathroom tonight. So I got a little extra minute here, but no, I just wanted to, I wanted to thank Johnny Blythe. Johnny, thank you for coming out tonight and explaining that. It was nice to see it on right here in front of me while you explained it, and I understand it much better now. And thank you for your service that you do and all your guys do. I appreciate you. I know that everybody here does. I want to thank Josh for coming tonight. I missed you, Josh. It's not that Anthony didn't do a good job. I was afraid we were liking Anthony a little too much. I'm glad you're back, because few people forgot. I said, what happened to Josh? But no, you're not. And I look for you all the time out on the road. I look for that smiling face. What the church did tonight, it really did. This touched me tonight. When I hear that 3,000 people are praying for me, God knows I need them all too. I really do. And you don't know how much I appreciate that. I think it made all of us feel special. And while I'm divvying out good things, I want to thank the two council members tonight, both of you, Monty and Jerry, for coming. You're sick, man. I'm glad you're down on that end, but thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up tonight. We've had council people over the years that I've been here that just didn't show up, not to show up, and you guys are showing up sick. Just better hope nobody else gets sick up here.
We may not be thanking you in a few days.
But no, we've been trying to keep away from you. Thank you for coming. And another thing, Jim, thank you for doing the budget, and Rox, as normally, you did a good job, and Adam, you did a good job. But going over the budget real quick, man, I just think our town is being run by an excellent staff. Jim, you're doing a good job, and what you're doing, and Patrick, I think you and Patrick work well together. And Patrick, just listening to Jim, you're doing everything that we could ever hope for. And with that being said, and the council, I've never worked with a council that I believe is working so hard for the town and for the betterment of the town. Every person up here, I'm just so happy that you're here. And not to close on a negative comment, but I just want to give you my years of experience, and I want to tell you, and I want you all to keep your head up, because there are people that the better we do and the better that the town does, and I think a lot of us know who these people are going to try to bring us down. And they're going to try to find things and make things look like we're not doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing. Motto that I've lived by in my whole life is it's easy to do the right thing. And as long as we're doing the right thing, or as long as you think you're doing the right thing, then that's all that matters, is doing good for the town. And anyway, don't let them bring you down, and don't let them disrupt what we have here, because we've got a great council, and I appreciate all of you. And Karen, I don't want to leave you out either.
You can leave me, it's okay.
And I love my wife. But no, you do wonderful. We're just a big happy family right now, and I hope we stay that way. But I'm proud to work with you, and thank y'all for coming.
And Mr. Head.
I guess I'm last. No, but not least. You're exactly right. Mr. Crump, thank you. I'm honored to know you. Thank you very much. Chase is gone, but I appreciate what you do. Johnny, thank you. All the veterans that were here, thank you. The two people that are sick, I'm not sure I will thank you for coming. I'll wait for another week to decide. $750,000 in surplus. Hard to believe. It's just a tribute to Patrick and everybody that works here. Karen, as always, thank you. Be safe, be good. See you next time. Thank you.
Okay. That being said, we have a closed session in accordance with NCGS 143-318-1183. Consult with an attorney, protect attorney-client privilege, and NCGS 143-318-1185 to establish or instruct staff agent concerning negotiation of a price or terms of a contract. I need a motion for closed session.
So moved.
Ms. House so energetically made the motion. All in favor? That would be unanimous. Okay, take a motion.
We come out of closed session.
Mr. Heads made the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. I need a motion to adjourn, Monty.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Monty's made a
Gosh, I
motion
like
to
this
adjourn. All in
Bible. I
favor?
like that Bible.
That's unanimous. Good night.
Go home and show that.